Towards the end of the 2008 campaign, the Republican Party, terrified at their own sinking poll numbers, attempted to link Barack Obama to radical leftist figures to make him appear un-American. First was the controversial Reverend Jeremiah Wright.
I say motherfuck America, motherfuck America's mother, motherfuck America's daddy, America can eat a dick, America can lick the balls.
In this episode, we've been talking all about America's birthday. Now, joining us to talk about what is probably the most important aspect of 4th of July safety, we have...
Hello, I'm George McKinn. I'm a retired battalion chief from the Marietta Fire Department. Proudly served for 21 years.
Is the 4th of July to firefighters like Black Friday is to retail workers? Do you guys just like brace yourself for the weekend?
It's not great. Of course, the spirit of the holiday is great. It's our nation's birthday and everything. You know, there's a lot of patriotism. But what comes of that is a very alcohol-fueled party that you throw in explosives.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, is that the most common call that you guys respond to, is alcohol or fireworks or a combination?
Definitely alcohol related, and then people are traveling a lot as well. My department had I-75 going right through it, so we saw a lot of people on the roads, and we had a lot of alcohol consumption. So a lot of car wrecks, and then you would have a lot of injuries due to burns or explosive injuries or fires.
I would imagine that in addition to like personal injuries from fireworks, like burns and stuff, that there's also property damage. Like then you have actual fires that you're responding to.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got a little projectile that's taking black powder way into the sky, exploding. It's not like this highly engineered device that's saying, oh, I'm not out yet, I need to continue or stay up here. It's going to fall back to the earth, and usually it's on your neighbor's roof or, into some woods that have been dried out because it's July.
Well, yeah, and there's varying degrees of legality when it comes to fireworks, like what you're allowed to do and when you're allowed to do it and stuff. Do you have general safety stuff that you think that people should remember if they're going to be using fireworks this holiday season?
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the legislative part of it. We're actually, in my opinion, going in the wrong direction. We're kind of getting too loose.
Oh, really?
We're definitely looser than we were 20 years ago. You used to be able to go... If you went into a Publix or a Kroger and you'd see maybe a pack of sparklers or some smoke bombs, now you can get an entire array of an entire fireworks show, or you can go to a trailer in a parking lot somewhere and get actual projectile mortar shells that you see at professional shows.
Yeah, I mean, the second you cross the South Carolina state line, there's the huge fireworks warehouses
and that's the other states. Georgia has now jumped on, and now you can acquire large mortar shells. Just, in a parking lot somewhere.
And people are not properly trained. No one's a pyrotechnic who's buying this stuff. So what do people need to keep in mind?
Correct. So my best advice is respect what it is. And what it is it's a probably poorly made device that's loaded with black powder, the item that's inside a bullet that makes it go bang, and with a projectile device also on it. So you shoot it up into the air, there's a massive explosion, and that's if everything works correctly. Maybe that projectile doesn't work and it just sits there and it explodes, right in your face. Or that fuse doesn't work, or there's all kinds of things. Again, we're not talking about a very high-tech device. We're talking about things that are mass-produced and just shoved out there for the public to acquire. And what you said about as far as pyrotechnics and professionals go, right now, if I called you tomorrow and said, hey, I'm filming a movie, I'd like for you to handle my pyrotechnics, you'd be like, well, no, I can't do that. I'm not qualified to do that. But for some reason on the 4th of July, we're all pyrotechnic experts.
Yeah.
Right. So, we let our guard down and we just forget really what we're doing. And that's really exploding a device or shooting it in the air to explode with alcohol consumption over our neighbor's house in front of our children. There's a lot going on there.
What should people do if they think a firework is a dud, that it's not going on? Because I would imagine that's a big potential for injury.
It is, because everybody still wants to get that thing to go off. I'll tell you what the pros do if they have a dud. And the pros, and I talked about mortar shells that you can acquire. You can get like a 3-inch mortar shell, maybe a 4-inch mortar shell now. The pros use the ones that are about the size of a bowling ball. Mm-hmm. And when they have a dud, it is their policy and procedure that they flood the tube that it's in for over an hour. They literally let it soak in water for an hour to make sure that thing's not going to go off. What does the average person do in the cul-de-sac of their neighborhood? No, they'll put a lighter on it and they'll try to catch it on fire to see if it's going to go off.
Yeah.
Again, that's what it is. It's a dud. It's not going to go. It needs to be soaked in water. Like with a water hose, I don't like someone picking it up and moving it.
Yeah.
I would just douse that thing with that water hose that hopefully you have sitting there as you're shooting off your fireworks.
Yeah, if we're all going to pretend to be pyrotechnic experts, everyone should designate someone to pretend to be the fire marshal who's holding the hose.
Safety officers are great in any situation.
Absolutely. And then also we were talking a little bit before we started recording that people might not realize how dangerous sparklers are, that you need to be careful with those. Can you talk about that?
Correct. And that's another great example of where we let our guard down. We think that the sparklers are for the little kids, let's give these to the little kids. So a sparkler burns at 1200 degrees. And I mentioned to you earlier that glass melts at 900 degrees. So we're talking extremely hot. And they're, again, not produced very well. They're these little metal sticks that they shove like a magnesium type paste to. We light it off when we hand it to our 5-year-olds. So you can just imagine what that's going to look like when, and after they burn all the way down, that metal rod is molten now and it's like glowing red. So you can imagine what that does to a little child's hand. And and any bright light, anything the little kid handles, they're going to want to grab it. And it happens all the time.
What do you recommend people do when let's say the little kid has successfully held it at the bottom, they've enjoyed their little sparkler, what do they do with it once it's done?
They need to get it away from them. Throw it on the ground, hopefully like it's on asphalt or something like that, and let that thing cool off before you try to do anything with it. I recommend glow sticks. They're great.
Oh, glow sticks are great.
You get the light, you get the little swirly effect. It lasts 100 times longer, and you get the same effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what about water safety? I would imagine that there are also, since you mentioned that you're a paramedic, that you get calls about drinking, alcohol, boating, people not paying attention, kids swimming. Is that a huge concern for you guys also this weekend?
Absolutely. And this could be water safety could be a whole other interview. There's so much that goes with that. And what I talked about with legislation earlier, legislation with water safety is actually going in the right direction. Georgia and Alabama and some other surrounding states have now put into play that you have to take a boater safety course before you operate a vehicle, and they check for this. Like you can get a ticket if you haven't taken it, and you have to carry a little card with you. But again, alcohol driven, you've got hundreds of people out on the water, you've got fireworks shows going off, and you've got a ton of alcohol consumption. So you can imagine there's the possibilities of things that could go wrong. It's just endless.
Yeah, I've never really understood people not wanting to wear life vests, because if you're wearing a life vest, then you don't have to do any work in the water, even if you're conscious.
Correct. And, they're designed for, if you're unconscious, it's going to keep you afloat the right way. So.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to just relax and float? The best way to do that is with a life vest.
I own a lake house, and we have a boat. And on
when am I coming over?
on 4th of July, we don't go in the water.
Oh, yeah.
We sit on the banks and watch the
It's that much for you? Wow. Yeah. All right. You guys heard it here. The expert does not go in the water on 4th of July.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people are always asking me, as someone with infectious disease background, what I avoid. So it's nice to hear that someone with as much experience as you just doesn't bother on the lake on the 4th of July.
Just sit and barbecue on the bank.
Yeah. Sit on, maybe jump off the dock once.
That's right.
So what are some things that people can do this weekend to make firefighters' lives easier?
Hand protection like gloves and eye protection go a long ways.
For just fireworks or just in general?
For fireworks. If you don't want to look nerdy or uncool with your safety glasses, your sunglasses will serve as great eye protection. And then, of course, gloves. Hands and arms are the #1 injury site for fireworks. So, a good pair of gloves goes a long way.
If you're just tuning in, I'm Laurel Bristow, and this is Health Wanted. We are joined by George McKeon, former Fire Battalion Chief, to talk about 4th of July safety. Okay, let's get into the dark stuff. Let's talk about, I don't know if you know, I think it's Consumer Safety Reports every year that does the fireworks mannequin demonstration, which I look forward to. If you're not familiar with it, every year they put out a video of them showing various firework injuries on mannequins. And last year's was even animated with a voiceover that was pretty fun. Are there things that people don't expect? Are there injuries that you have seen that it was something that a lot of people just don't even consider? I mean, we talk about kind of sparklers take you by surprise. Is there anything else like that?
Yeah, the sparklers will be #1. Like, again, for some reason it's looked at as like, this is what we can let the little kids do. But, we just talked about how much the potential for the dangers there and the injury. And then going back to duds is a big deal, because someone's let their guard down. They've reapproached. They've lessened that distance that you need to have as you're firing off that mortar shell. And you're trying to, get that fuse to light, which sometimes is only 1.5 inches anyway, that gives you just a few seconds before it went out. Mm-hmm. So now we're talking about a matter of seconds that you're, standing next to this projectile explosive.
I would imagine it's probably also helpful if you're going to be setting off fireworks to have one of those longer lighters just to give yourself more space.
Absolutely, yeah. No stick matches, lighters, the common cigarette lighters or anything like that. Those real long fireplace lighters are where you want to go.
Yeah. If you're going to cosplay as a pyrotechnic expert, really get into the character, everybody. Have the tools. Yeah. In addition to fireworks, which are classic for this weekend, it's summertime and people are doing a lot of stuff with fire for some reason when it's extremely hot out. I've never totally understood the connection, but let's talk about like bonfires or grilling. Are there things that people really need to keep in mind for other activities that they might be doing with fires?
I love fire extinguishers, and they make, you walk around in your work place of work and you'll have the industrial size. But, your home improvement places, Home Depot, Lowe's, sell these great fire extinguishers for your home.
I would also like to point out that you did reflexively look around for where the fire extinguisher is here, and it's behind you, which is why you couldn't see it. But I can see it, so continue.
So a great ABC extinguisher goes a long way. When I grill out, I have one next to me. When I have a bonfire, I have one next to me. It's just a great tool that puts out a lot of fire with a little effort. Now, it makes a mess. It's a dry powder chemical that comes out of it, and it makes a big poof all over the place. But I would much rather clean up that powder mess than deal with the damage of a fire. And they sell you can get one for a real good one for $20, and it's real easy.
Is it true? I've heard that for grilling, people shouldn't use those metal grill scrapers because the little metal bristles come off in people's foods.
Yeah, correct. The plastic ones, once they get hot enough, they'll start melting and they start letting go of those bristles.
Oh, no.
So that's why I always use either a wooden or I have a metal one that I use that's going to hold on to those bristles.
Yeah. That's so gross. Did you have a most memorable 4th of July call? Maybe something that wasn't necessarily horrifying but shocking or funny to you?
Just the shifts, and you include New Year's on this as well.
Yeah.
Like any day that's centered around fireworks just made a regular call that more exciting. Like if we went on a medical call at 2:00 in the morning and we were pulling a stretcher out, there's just bombs, and it's like working, a shift during World War II. So it just added to, the stress of the day. Because, we were woke up for that call. We don't stay up at night. So, the alarm goes off. We're half asleep. We go to these calls. And there's literally just bombs exploding in the sky everywhere.
How do you, do you guys get to celebrate at all if you're on shift for that? Do you have your own little extremely safe fireworks? Or are you just like, we're going to see enough of it?
It's a bad look for us to be shooting off fireworks.
I would think that you guys would be the most qualified people to shoot off
We'll grill
fireworks.
out. And a lot of times we will go watch the pros do it.
Yeah.
At the big fireworks show. In Marietta, they have a massive fireworks show.
Is that a call that people fight to get on, or an assignment to be we need firefighter support for the fireworks show? Do people
it's an all-day event because once the fireworks hit the ground or start getting set up, we have to have people standing by at them.
Yeah.
So it's a long day.
Yeah.
I'm talking from early in the morning till when the fireworks finally do go off. Mm-hmm. It's a long day.
So it's not that fun.
Because once they start putting those, again, bowling ball sized mortar shells that will literally blow up a car,
you gotta watch them.
You gotta watch those things. So, it's not a great gig.
Has it changed your feeling on 4th of July? Do you still like the 4th of July, or are you kind of exhausted by it?
There's probably a little PTSD that's involved, but I still enjoy it. It's fun times with the family, and the spirit is there. It's the birth of the nation, and it's a good time to celebrate, but. For some reason, we've associated it with explosives and alcohol consumption.
It's the American way. What better way to celebrate
the
birth of America than alcohol and explosives?
That is right.
Any tips for alcohol consumption in general to keep people safe? I always say the cost of car service is going to be a lot less than a DUI. So,
in the days now of Ubers and Lyfts and ride shares, there is very little excuse to get behind a vehicle. Actually, there's zero excuse to get behind the wheel of a vehicle after you've consumed alcohol. Hopefully one day we'll have Uber boats, but having a designated captain is an easy task. Now that we've added the safety courses, you have to have that as well. But, any 16-year-old who's had the boat or safety course can drive you home.
That's an incredible opportunity to make some money. If you're over 16, take your boat or safety course, and then you can rent yourself out as the DD right. for boats, and you just make bank over the summer.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna start a little squad. I'm gonna find a bunch of teenagers and get them trained up.
Absolutely. No, I think the safest practice in the 4th of July is go to a professional show. Let the pros handle it. Sit there and enjoy yourself. enjoy your alcoholic beverages, get a designated driver, and go home safe.
Yeah, and it sounds like if you really want that adrenaline rush, join the fire department.
Exactly.
And you can do it with a bunch of
Well, there's
beer.
a lot of downtime. It's not all adrenaline rush, you know.
I imagine it's enough adrenaline rush to make the downtime worth it.
Yes. There are some times where it's pretty extreme, yeah.
People might be surprised to notice that if you walk past a fire station, you know, they're sitting outside in the lawn chairs with the garage door rolled up, and sometimes they'll invite you in to come and like look at the fire truck, you know, if they're not busy or whatever. So they're really a community space. Do you guys like doing that, letting little kids put the helmet on and see the fire truck and everything?
Absolutely, because you talked about it earlier. Like you asked why I became a firefighter, if it was about the adrenaline. But a lot of it is like we loved fire trucks as little boys or girls, and we wanted to be around them. And so we love seeing that. It's part of the culture that it's everything there, that $1 million fire truck, that multi-million-dollar fire station, it's all tax dollars. The taxpayers paid for it. They pay our salaries. So yeah, we're more than welcome to come in. And you know, as long as there's not something going on, an emergency call, anytime that you want to go to a fire station, it's totally wide open. And again, all the firefighters love putting the kids up on the trucks and showing them around, because it's cool to have a profession that a large population of children say they want to do when they grow up.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty neat, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm absolutely still waving at fire trucks as they're going through the neighborhood. Can't help it. Just love it.
It's a good gig. It is. It really is.
Well, George, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, it was a pleasure. Really, I always enjoy doing it. I still am a little bit into the safety realm. I'm a safety officer now at Virginia Highlands Elementary School to fill the time, and I'm in the process of starting my own home safety consulting company, where we'll come in and kind of help out new parents and install car seats and train them in CPR and install baby gates and cameras and things like that. So still in the business a little bit.
Of course. Well, I hope you and your family have a safe and happy 4th of July on the dock of your lake house that I will be stopping by, I'm
Absolutely.
sure.
I sip way too much drink. I don't think I can think. I won't try to tell lie. This blunt got me too high.
Expect to see a lot more DWI checkpoints in Suffolk County for the July 4th holiday weekend and the remainder of the summer. The crackdown was implemented after nearly a record number of DWI-related arrests so far this season.
That's right. It's all an effort that is personal to the department, as well as family and friends of Boy Scout Andrew McMorris, killed by a drunk driver back in 2018. A friend of his joined the sheriff's office today to announce the stepped-up enforcement. Eyewitness News reporter Stacey Sager has the details live from Dix Hills. Stacey.
Well, you know, we are in front of the LIE here in Suffolk County, which has a distinction no county would ever want. More deadly crashes here than in any other county across the state. It's a lot to really keep in mind before you get in your car this holiday weekend.
I remember playing soccer with him at 4 years old.
But losing her childhood friend to a drunk driver is now a core memory Emily Cordano wishes she never had. Andrew McMorris of Wading River was killed back in 2018.
He's just a kid. He was 12. He didn't even make it to high school.
County officials today discussing his case and their crackdown out here on the roads for a problem that has only gotten worse since. The county sheriffs with stepped-up sobriety checkpoints for the upcoming July 4th weekend. And so far, 116 arrests for DWI this year.
So we are definitely on pace to not only shatter that record, but take a lot of people off the road that could endanger others.
On Long Island, essentially somebody dies every single day in a car crash, and this needs to stop.
Authorities say Suffolk County, year in, year out, does lead the state in the amount of deadly crashes, and property damage is unfathomable. In fact, only on Sunday here in Montauk, police say a 22-year-old drunk driver plowed right through this art show. The only blessing, it was 6 hours before it began.
I don't think there's any doubt people would have been killed if it had happened when the show was open.
Jim Levinson lost his tent along with 80% of his work, and he wasn't the only one.
There was a jeweler there that had expensive jewelry who believes she may have lost upwards of $80,000 in jewelry.
So as you get in your car this holiday weekend, this group hoping to drive a very serious message home.
Do not drink or do drugs and drive. You put your life at jeopardy and you're putting everyone else's life at jeopardy.
And sadly, they call this stretch between Memorial Day and Labor Day the 100 deadliest days of summer out here on the roads, for good reason. Meanwhile, out in Montauk, the estimated damage from that drunk driving crash is close to $150,000. We're live along the Long Island Expressway in Dix Hills. I'm Stacey Sager, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And it was hot. It was so hot. It was like 95, 100 degrees in the shade. The wind never blew.
And they say that New Orleans has humidity down there, which kind of cools us off. That's bullshit. It was death heat.
Inside the convention center, it was so stifling hot, people tried to stay outside.
Hot as hell, 100-something degrees.
It's hot.
It was very, very hot at that time. It was 97, 98 degrees.
It was hot.
The heat radiating off of the highway at night was intensely hot.
It's hot as hell.
That was the worst summer. I mean, that heat was ridiculous.
Man, hot as heck in here.
It was beyond Africa heat. If Africa heat was anything like that, like I said before, and I'll say it again, they keep saying go back to Africa. Hell no.
Extreme heat is becoming a dangerous new normal. Last week, it affected much of the United States. This week, it's hitting Europe. The heat brings with it a number of health risks, from severe burns to accelerated aging. The effects of long periods of high temperatures on the human body are getting more attention in this time of rising climate change. Stephanie Tsai reports from Phoenix, the epicenter of extreme heat in the United States, for our series Tipping Point.
Summer's off to a sweltering start. From New York to Chicago, triple-digit temperatures are behind heat illnesses, cancellations of sporting events, and strained power grids and outages. But nowhere is the heat more dangerous than in Maricopa County, Arizona, which every summer records hundreds of heat-related deaths and an untold number of heat-related burns.
I was checking the pool. It was July 3rd, the hottest day of the year at that time. It was about 116 degrees.
Phoenix resident Robert Woolley is 72. The retired teacher and former Navy aviator was walking around his pool 2 summers ago when he tripped and fell.
I put my hand down to catch myself, and I was startled by how hot and sharp the rocks were, and instinctively I picked my hand up, and I went all the way down to the ground, and I actually hit my head on the ground, and I tried to push myself back up, and I got partway up, and I tried that several more times, and I just could not get back up. And each time I tried, my hands hurt worse and worse and worse. And I looked at my hands, and the skin had peeled off my hands, and it looked like raw hamburger underneath.
He eventually made it to the back door where his wife could hear him. When he arrived at Valleywise Hospital, he had third-degree burns on 20% of his body.
When you're burned, you continue to burn, and they change your bandages daily. And so when they unwrap you, it's like being skinned alive.
And yet, Woolley is one of the luckier burn patients, says Dr. Kevin Foster, the director of the Arizona Burn Center at Valleywise.
For the most part, we're capable of saving just about anybody with a burn. However, the really difficult thing in the summertime is when heat stroke is also a problem. Because high temperatures affect every system of the body, the neurologic system, the cardiovascular system, the GI tract. And that really is the determining factor of how these patients are going to do, is how bad is the heat stroke and how bad have the other systems of the body been injured.
The burn center is at its busiest during Phoenix's increasingly brutal summers.
As we urbanize and we have more concrete and more areas that absorb heat, that just makes the problem even worse, and you have more surfaces to get burned on. Sidewalks, concrete, asphalt, paved surfaces, rocks, those surfaces can get up to 170 or even 180 degrees, which is just a little bit below the boiling point of water. So those are really, really hot surfaces, and it only takes a fraction of a second to get a deep burn when exposed to that.
While heat-related illness and injury can hit anyone in these extreme summer months, people experiencing homelessness and substance users are at particularly high risk, accounting for a disproportionate number of heat-related deaths in recent years.
Morning, Circle the City. Would you like some water?
Perla Puebla is the Associate Medical Director of Street Medicine at Circle the City, an organization that provides medical treatment to the unhoused population in Maricopa County.
We have to go from wellness to death prevention in the summer.
She and her team go out daily offering medical care to people living on the streets. The summers are also a busy time for them.
I have seen severe dehydration, heat exhaustion. I'm talking about the patients are actively sweating, they're dizzy, they're not feeling well, but they still don't want to go to the emergency room for many reasons. It could be that they don't want to leave their pet. They're no longer able to be hydrated with oral hydration, and we have to provide IV hydration, so intravenous hydration, to help them out.
Preventative measures like IV hydration for patients who don't want to go to the emergency room may have contributed to the number of heat-related deaths ticking down last summer. There were still more than 600 such deaths in the county.
The hardest part is staying cool. There's not a lot. Arizona don't have a lot of trees, and with being out on the street, they kick you out from everywhere.
43-year-old Brandolyn Valencia has been unhoused off and on over the last couple of years. She had a checkup with Puebla and her colleagues in South Phoenix.
There's a lot of people with heat exhaustion, and I've seen a few people get heat stroke, and it's that bad here. It's that bad. So it's not the best place to be out here on the street, but it happens, and so they should just get the resources they can get and use them so they're not in this situation.
The number of days with high levels of heat are lasting longer in Phoenix, and that is a problem for the unhoused population because there is a period of time where they can get no relief at night because it does not get under 90 degrees at night for a prolonged period of time.
Dr. Rebecca Morin is the medical director of the Family Health Centers at Circle the City and treats unhoused patients.
Chronic medical conditions that normally don't change at all for somebody who's housed will change a lot for somebody who is unhoused because the heat interacts with the medicines, the heat interacts with the underlying medical issue.
Meanwhile, new research from the University of Southern California suggests that greater exposure to extreme heat accelerates biological aging in older adults, raising new concerns about how climate change and particularly heat waves impact long-term health.
The effects of extreme heat might not show up right away as a diagnosable health condition, but they could be taking a silent toll at the cellular and the molecular level. And over time, this could accumulate and eventually lead to disability or disease.
Yoon-Young Choi is one of the study's co-authors. In the study sample, people living in extreme heat experienced 14 months of additional biological aging compared to peers living in cooler areas.
This effect was actually comparable to the effect that we could capture for the smoking, heavy smoking, and drinking, which are two well-established risk factors for aging and disease.
Whether hidden or visible, heat's effects on health can be life-changing. For Robert Woolley, it's been a long 2 years. After an extended stay in the hospital and undergoing 5 surgeries and rehab, he's still not the same.
How has this incident changed your outlook on your life?
I don't take things as granted as I used to. I'm grateful for every day I'm alive.
And while the astronomer gazes at the sun through one of his many telescopes, he now sees its power in a new light. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Stephanie Tsai in Phoenix.
We don't need no water. 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 We don't need no water.
I just want to go for a swim, that's all.
We don't need no water.
I ain't went for a swim since I was a little kid.
We don't need no water.
You probably just be throwing it all willy-nilly, just pouring it on your shoes for no reason. I need water, man.
It is an unspoken understanding in some local households. Don't drink from the tap. In Chicago, more than 400,000 lead pipes help deliver tap water to homes. But lead can leach, it can flake off and dissolve into water. No amount of lead is safe to consume and is super harmful to children. Yet a 2024 study found that childhood lead exposure from drinking water is widespread here in Chicago. Now, the obvious solution here is to just get rid of the lead pipes and get rid of them soon. But replacement, well, that's been going slow, despite a federal deadline that's aimed at speeding things up. Now, at its current pace, our city's water system won't be lead pipe free until, get this, babies born today are middle-aged. Yeah, so what's the holdup here? Joining us now in studio to discuss is Kirti Gopal, a reporter with Inside Climate News, and Juan Pablo Ramirez-Franco, who's a WBEZ environment reporter. Welcome to the show. Good to see you both.
Thanks for having us.
We've also got Shakina Perry with us, a senior policy advocate at the Natural Resources Defense Council, focusing on problems of safe and affordable access to water. Welcome back to Reset.
Thank you so much.
So let's start with you, Shakina, on some history here. Take us back. This lead pipe and service line issue in Chicago, where did this all begin?
No, for sure. And first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This problem is decades old. We can go back in the day, and people across the country were installing lead pipes because it was malleable, right? It was cost effective. It was easy to access, and it was the thing to use back in the day. But as you know, with research advancements and physicians getting involved, physicians across the country were ringing an alarm about the harmful nature of lead. And so they were saying, we need to stop using lead. We need to stop installing it. And so while cities across the country were heeding that warning, Chicago, on the other hand, via the Chicago Plumbers Union, they saw this as a cash grab opportunity. They saw this as a way to keep business in the family. And so they were building local and national alliances to keep installing lead pipes despite physicians across the country saying otherwise. And so we were installing lead pipes up until 1986, where a federal ban was in place. But at that point, we have so many in the ground. At this point, fast forward, over 400,000, and we have the most in the country.
The most in the country. And so the city, if you could grasp why it was so slow to address lead pipes being in its water system, what would you say?
I think it's a national problem, right? We don't really address water infrastructure issues until it's too late. And so even people don't really engage with their water bills until something goes wrong. And so we haven't treated water infrastructure with the same level of priority as we do other things. And so now when you zoom in on a local level, it takes political will for individuals to say, when we're crafting our budgets, we're going to prioritize water infrastructure, particularly lead pipe replacement, which we have research that shows that there's no safe level of lead exposure. So this should be easy, but we're making this much harder than it needs to be.
And so it's clear to everyone who's listening, how is lead exposure harmful exactly?
Absolutely. So we can start with children, which is what we talk about most often, right? Just even the lowest level of exposure can lead to developmental disabilities, emotional and behavioral learning disabilities.
And to be clear, more than nearly 2/3 of children here under 6 are exposed.
Absolutely. So they're caught in a vicious cycle of exposure. So whether it's at birth, as a fetus, when they're enrolling in daycares and schools, as well as when they go back home. So it's a vicious cycle. So we focus on children so often, but when we look at adults are also exposed to hypertension and other cardiovascular diseases just off of low levels of exposure. So when we think about both children and adults, we're spending so much money on healthcare-related costs to address these different aspects, when we can just treat the issue what it is remove the lead pipes, and so we can actually give kids a trying chance in this country.
Yeah. Kirti, let's bring you in here. Talk to us about the federal mandate that's in place requiring Chicago to do something about this. What is it asking for Chicago to do, and what is the funding that the federal government is providing here?
Absolutely. So At the end of the Biden administration, the EPA finalized a new rule, which is kind of beefing up some of the requirements for water systems across the country to deal with lead in their drinking water, and specifically to deal with lead service lines.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main things that was the first requirement for water systems to do was to take stock of what lead pipes they have and submit an inventory to the EPA at the end of last year. That basically would tally up all the lead service lines they have and say, okay, these are all the service lines that we need to replace.
Yeah.
And for Chicago, that was 412,000.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's the most in the country. And one of the requirements in this rule is to replace all those lead service lines for most water systems in the country in about 10 years from 2027 when these compliance guidelines kick in. Because Chicago has so many service lines, there's the possibility of an extension that would give Chicago around 20 years from 2027, which is a long time, but
20 years from 2027. So now we're at 2047.
Right.
I'm trying to keep up with the math here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like we said, we've obtained Chicago's plan that they submitted this year to the Illinois EPA, and according to that, they're planning, as of now, to take about 50 years to replace their lines.
Mm-hmm. Is this, Shakina, this federal mandate, is it the first of its kind?
No, so we had a lead and copper rule in place prior, which was around 1991. And so this one is the lead and copper rule improvements, which not only does the federal mandate around lead pipe replacement, but it also improves water quality testing. It also reduces the lead action level, which basically means that if there's testing that takes place and it's an exceedance above 10 parts per billion, then it just really requires water utilities to, kick into action quicker. When it used to be 15 parts per billion. So
I see.
Lead pipes is like one piece of a broader improvement to water quality standards, but definitely it builds on some prior lead and copper rule that was in place.
So I'm looking at you now, Juan Pablo, because I need you to have some answers here. Why has the city's lead replacement program been so sluggish?
Yeah, I would say that the city points to two big issues. They would say, one, it's budgetary problems. This is an expensive problem. Replacing a lead service line in Chicago can cost something like $35,000. So this isn't like chump change. This is like real money, right? And then the second thing is a staffing problem. There aren't the people they need at the Department of Water Management to help people get this going and moving. So what I would say is that the city is really looking at a massive problem.
Yeah. Are they looking to ramp up the replacements this year?
Yeah, I guess there's like a bit of good news here, right? Which is that the city is picking up speed. So up until very recently, the city had only replaced just under 8,000 lead service lines, but it plans to replace an additional 8,000 lead service lines just this year. And by 2027, it plans to start replacing something like 8,300 lead service lines. But again, replacing lead service lines is very, very expensive. And that's especially true here in Chicago.
Yeah. How do you feel when the city gives these kinds of responses, Shakina, for why it's taking so long?
It's frustrating and it's incredibly disappointing considering there are cities across the country who have done this work in an efficient and equitable manner. We have a blueprint in place on how to do this work well. And the city of Chicago is a very large municipality. We have access to resources. We have staffing that other smaller cities don't have. And so at this point, I think that there's a lot of excuses being made because we have the blueprint. Right. And it takes political will to say we are going to take this seriously. We're going to prioritize it and we're going to ramp this up because we know that even the lowest levels of exposure can lead to lifelong complications with health, but also can be fatal. And so I don't know why we're dragging our feet on this.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what you just said. You just said we're going to take this seriously. And it makes me think, have folks at the top of the chain here not been taking this as seriously as they should have?
I think people have spoken about it. I will give this administration credit. They have spoken about the need to replace lead pipes. They've been open and honest about what some of their challenges have been. But what we're not seeing is the actual, a legitimate plan to help ramp up these efforts. It's kind of one and the same with previous administrations.
We can talk about ramping up efforts for as long as we want, but where's the action?
Absolutely. And that's what frustrating.
Here's the other frustrating piece to this is that it's disproportionately this problem. We talked about kids earlier, but it's also disproportionately affecting people of color.
Absolutely.
Right? Tell us more, Shakina.
Yeah. So I view lead lead service lines in our ground, not just as a public health issue, but an environmental injustice. And when we talk about the water rate burden in the city of Chicago, Black folks in the city carry a large burden. So they're spending a disproportionate amount of their income paying their water bill, or some people can't even pay their water bill. And so now when you add lead pipe replacement onto it, when our government isn't doing what they're supposed to do to protect its residents, you're putting the onus on individuals who already don't have extra income to survive, right? So now you have to choose between whether it's putting groceries on my table or paying my water bill. Now you're saying, feed my children or keep a lead pipe in the ground. And so now when we talk about cost, right, with the astronomical cost of replacement in Chicago, which they quote up to $35,000 for a single replacement, if you don't qualify for the equity line program, if you don't qualify for the homeowner replacement program, and if you're not in queue for whatever replacements that they're doing on a weekly basis, you're just going to have a lead pipe delivering water into your household for as long as possible until they do something about it. And that's unfair.
That 35,000 number, Kirthi, sounds just astronomical to me. So I'm curious whether there are plans to renew or even increase that federal or state funding to help folks.
Yeah, you're right that $35,000 number is really high. And we should know also that that's higher. That's what Chicago has said their average cost of per service line replacement has been.
And we're saying Chicago because that's not what it costs in other cities.
No,
right?
Absolutely not. Nationally, there's estimates for what it should be, and that's between around like $5,000 to $12,000 per line.
So why does ours cost so much?
Great question.
We're still trying to find out the answer to that one.
Sasha, we actually are in the middle of finding out the answer to that one, and that's a story that's coming up later.
Okay, thank you.
But one thing we can say is that the city is working on some ways that they could potentially reduce that cost.
Okay.
And one of the main things that they've said they're trying to do to reduce that cost and ramp up replacements is replace on the block level instead of replacing single homes one by one. So that's one way to kind of lower the cost, and that's one of the main things they're citing so far.
So fast forward here, Shakina. So we get to the place or the point in this process where we are going to get the lead pipes replaced. What does that actually look like? What is the process of actually doing the work?
Absolutely. So I think that the city of Chicago has to put together a substantive plan that makes sense, right? And so we have currently the lead and copper rule improvements, which we call the LCRI, that's held up in court currently. And so that is the thing that will, if it remains in place, will put Chicago on around a 21 and a half year replacement timeline if it sticks. And that will kick off October 2027, if it sticks. So with that in mind, given the sluggish pace right now, if we have to reduce this timeline from 50 years to 21 years, we have to get our stuff together, right? So that means having a comprehensive replacement plan that prioritizes community partners, that will be able to help contractors actually get approval from residents to actually get their lead pipe replaced.
Yeah.
It's actually utilizing our federal funding that's being disseminated through the state in a way that's equitable and efficient, and also identifying other financing mechanisms to actually get this work done, because federal funding is limited. So we need to look internally and figure out how can we pay for this in a sustainable way.
Right.
And then also just thinking about, whether it's water workforce, whether it's the financing mechanisms, whether it's working with the community partners, being able to address the restoration issue as well, which is a big frustration with residents currently who are getting lead pipe replaced. Dig up the ground, what's the communication look like?
How do you let them know? I'm wondering, are they looking out for an email with a date? Like, we're coming to your house on such and such date at 10 a.m. Or are they expecting a disturbance, like a knock on the door?
Absolutely.
What is that notice like?
In state law, it says that before any type of replacement takes place, you have to notify the resident or the property owner within 45 days, whether it's via mail, other forms of communication, whether it's a letter posted, so before any work actually gets done. So this is all kind of written out in state law already. And so if we expedite this process, we just really need to get our stuff together, because it's going to be more pipes replaced at a quicker pace. And right now we don't have everything together to actually get that done well.
Right. Which cities, Juan Pablo, have adopted the federal mandate?
Yeah, so First of all, I'd like to point out that we talked to the 5 cities with the most lead pipes in the country.
Okay.
And so those cities are Chicago, Cleveland, New York City, Detroit, and Milwaukee. All of them, except Chicago, have decided that they're going to stick to that federal mandate of 10 years to replace all their lead service lines.
All of them except Chicago.
All of them except Chicago.
Is the city even allowed to do that, Kirti? Disregard the mandate?
So they won't be. The rule and the replacement requirements of the rule don't go into effect until 2027.
Okay.
So what the city is saying right now is that they'll adjust their plan by 2027 if the regulation stands. And like Shakina mentioned, this rule is under litigation right now. So some advocates are saying that maybe the city is kind of waiting to see what goes on with this litigation, to see if anything changes with the requirements before committing to replacing their lines quicker. But if we get to 2027 and nothing has changed with the rule as it is, then Chicago's not allowed to disregard it.
This federal deadline, Juan Pablo, this was set by the Biden administration. You and I have talked about this here on this program before. I wonder, though, with all the things that we're watching change right before our eyes, especially since January, is there an expectation here that the Trump administration is going to keep this in place? Or are there plans to maybe rescind what's been going on?
Yeah, Sasha, I think a lot of that is up in the air. What I would say, though, is, like Kirti mentioned, like Shakina mentioned, the LCRI is currently under litigation. So to be fair, I think generally water systems across the country are waiting to see what happens in that court. I'll add, though, that yesterday was the deadline for the EPA to decide what it was going to do with that legal challenge, and they saw a 30-day extension. So all of us across the country are just waiting to see.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that, Kirti? I mean, it sounds like Chicago is definitely in wait and see mode on this as well.
Yeah, it seems to be. And something that we've heard also from people who are working on this issue at a national level is that there is kind of a lot of anxiety around what's going to happen with this rule and also what's going to happen with funding and federal funding for replacements. So it is something that I think a lot of water systems around the country are kind of in this slight period of limbo with.
And so this conversation about lead pipe replacements costing so much more money here in our city, you two are looking into that for your next piece. Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a few pieces coming, and we're going to be working on stories around lead pipe replacement throughout the summer, and one of those pieces will be about funding.
I can't wait till you bring us that answer.
And Sasha, if I could say one thing, if you're listening to this and you have any experience with a lead pipe replacement or you have suffered some sort of lead exposure, please get in touch. You can find us at wbez.org. There's a contact form on our last story.
Yeah. And real quick before we go, Shakina, and while I have you here, residents listening to us, in the meantime, if they want to keep their water safe, what do you recommend as far as services that the city might offer?
Absolutely. So I would always encourage everyone to go to letsafechicago.org and see if you qualify for one of the various programs that the city offers. One is the Equity Line program, which is income-based, and another was the homeowner-initiated program where you're still responsible for paying for the lead pipe replacement, but they do waive permit fees attached to it. And if you're a daycare owner, there's also a daycare replacement program as well. So that's one thing from a resource standpoint. Number two, I encourage everyone to get a point of use filter that is that's lead certified to remove lead from the water. So it's not just a matter of let me go in the store and just grab any filter. Please read to see if it removes lead.
Yes.
And install that on your faucet, or also get filters, pitchers that do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then also encourage your alder people, your state reps, your state senators to prioritize lead pipe replacement.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's a budget priority, and stay on top of them. I think that honestly, the city of Chicago and the state should be providing people with filters for free until they figure things out, because we know that it's harmful. We know the long-term impacts of it. So we should be proactive as government agencies to protect the health and safety of residents.
Great advice. That's Shakina Perry, Kirti Gopal, and Juan Pablo Ramirez Franco. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Sasha.
Thank you.
Man, the game done got fucked up somewhere, man. Niggas started talking about nothing. How the fuck you want me talking about nothing, man? Time is money, man. Get your head right, man. Talk about something, man. Nah, fuck it, we handle that. Hey, yo, I don't know what these motherfuckers thought. Like a motherfucker was just going, motherfucker, just go somewhere and chill the fuck out. No, what I'm going to is I'm going to keep my motherfucking foot on your niggas' necks. So your motherfucking grandkids feel I'ma still be here, man. J-Electronica, the future. Don't be scared. Man, for real, I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut. I'm tired of all this bullshit, man. Niggas is motherfucking whack. I don't give a fuck. Word up. Yo, take that. Take that. And give this one to your girl. Take that. Dig in your mouth, bitch. Like that. We don't give a fuck. Check this out. Ain't none of y'all niggas did this shit. As long as we did it, how we did it. No disrespect. But y'all niggas need lotion, man. You need motherfucking lotion, you ashy ass, motherfucking hating ass, motherfucking fucking blunt, nasty mouth, fucking need a piece of gum, fucking broke ass nigga, fucking broke ass lying, fucking faggot motherfucker. Let's get back to the essence of the motherfucking music. Fuck all the bullshit, nigga.
And finally, a New York jury has delivered its verdict in the high-profile federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The music mogul was found guilty on 2 counts of transporting women for prostitution, and while being acquitted of 3 more serious charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. The 7-week trial featured emotional witness testimony, graphic allegations, and surveillance footage showing Combs assaulting singer Cassie Ventura. Now facing up to 20 years in prison, Combs remains in custody after the judge denied bail. And while this chapter of the criminal case might be ending, multiple civil lawsuits are still in play, which could potentially wipe out the bad boy empire. We've got the latest from New York City.
Sean Diddy Combs dropped to his knees and bowed his head in prayer as the jury delivered a mixed but damning verdict in a packed New York courtroom. Moments later, he stood up, clapped towards the gallery and declared, "I'll see you when I get out." Applause erupted from his family and supporters, but the weight of 2 federal convictions now hangs heavy over the former billionaire.
Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping.
On Wednesday morning, after 13 hours of deliberation across 3 days, a jury of 8 men and 4 women found Combs guilty of 2 counts of transporting individuals for prostitution. He was acquitted of the more serious charges, racketeering conspiracy and 2 counts of sex trafficking involving singer Cassandra Cassie Ventura and another woman known only as Jane. Those 3 acquittals spared Combs from a potential life sentence. But the 2 convictions, each carrying a maximum of 10 years, could still put the 55-year-old behind bars for years.
But one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that.
U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian denied Combs' request for bail following the verdict, citing his disregard for the rule of law and a propensity for violence. Combs has been held in a Brooklyn federal facility since his arrest in September 2024.
I feel very happy. Appeal.
Are you going to appeal the
I don't know. We're just taking one day at a time. We're taking one day at a time. Today was a great day. Today was a great win for us. And that's the takeaway.
Combs faced 5 federal charges. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy, not guilty. Count 2, sex trafficking of Ventura, not guilty. Count 3, transporting Ventura for prostitution, guilty. Count 4, Sex trafficking of Jane, not guilty. Count 5. Transporting Jane for prostitution, guilty.
My gut feeling was that he was really guilty, and that I thought that he really going to be punished on all numbers and counts, and so I'm a little bit shocked that he's cleared on most of the parts.
Prosecutors painted Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise operating since 2004. And central to the case were chilling testimonies from Ventura and Jane, who described being coerced into drug-fueled orgies or freak-offs involving male escorts. Combs allegedly watched, filmed, and masturbated during these encounters, sometimes threatening financial ruin or blackmail to ensure their compliance. Surveillance footage from 2016 showed Combs assaulting Ventura in a hotel hallway, evidence the prosecution used to reinforce claims of abuse and control. Now, even though Combs did not testify, his lawyers leaned heavily on cross-examinations and submitted evidence portraying the women as consenting participants in a consensual swingers lifestyle. They pointed to affectionate messages, suggested jealousy and drug use played a role, and accused the women of being financially motivated. While the criminal trial is over, the legal battles are far from it. Combs still faces multiple civil lawsuits alleging sexual abuse, allegations he denies. The empire he built from bad boy records now lies in ruins, his reputation scorched by scandal. As he returns to his cell, his world narrowed to steel bars and court calendars, one question remains: will Diddy ever dance his way back to freedom?
This question, why is this stuff happening? The New York Times editorial today. The Trump effect. See, this is what I'm doing with my money, buying newspapers like Dick Gregory. The Trump effect and how it spreads. It says we are on the brink, under Trump, on the brink of fascism. New York Times, all the news that's fit to print, editorial 12/10/2015. I say fascism is end-stage white supremacy. See, just like in Nazi Germany. Fascism, system of racism, white supremacy, determined to survive.
Just a few minutes ago, House Republicans did what President Trump demanded of them and passed his tax cut and spending bill in time for him to sign it by the 4th. It was a long haul. Trump twisted arms overnight to get a dozen GOP holdouts to say yes. And Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke for a record 8 hours and 44 minutes in a speech outlining Democrats' objections to the bill.
And as a result of the lack of health care that will result directly from this one big ugly bill, people in America will die.
Very strong words there, but then House Speaker Mike Johnson took a victory lap.
My friends and colleagues on both sides of the aisle, we've waited long enough. Some of us have literally been up for days now. But this day is a hugely important one in the history of our nation.
NPR Washington reporter Elena Moore joins us now from Capitol Hill. Hi, Elena.
Hey, Robin.
A lot of tired people there, but a huge win for the president. First, how is the White House portraying it?
Yeah, we're still waiting for a statement from President Trump, but this is a big win for him. Like you said, it puts trillions, it spends trillions of government funds on tax cuts, immigration enforcement, and national defense. Those were, some key campaign promises that Trump made when he was running last year. And he's had a really big role in this whole process. That's what lawmakers have been telling us up here. He's been pushing them to get this bill done by July 4th. That's tomorrow, which was a self-imposed deadline that's really been hanging over the heads of people here. And he's been meeting with lawmakers throughout the process, they say. Even, over, holdouts that were really concerned about big, key portions of this bill. There were folks worried about how much this would cost, fiscal hawks on the Hill. And of course, there were people that were really concerned about some of these changes that the bill makes to the Medicaid program.
Right. Let's talk about that, because the bill cuts spending on Medicaid, and experts tell us millions of people will likely end up losing those benefits. And it's because of things like onerous paperwork. Some states might require people to re-register every month, work requirements, different reasons, but people will be cut from the rolls according to experts. And we also hear it will affect red states in particular. Republicans know this, that it will hurt their constituents. It's reflected in the polls. How were they won over?
Yeah, well, and just to back up for a second, Medicaid is the joint federal and state program that provides health care for more than 70 million low-income elderly and disabled Americans around the country. And so, yeah, like you said, lawmakers in red states, blue states, I had one lawmaker say red states, blue states, purple states, tens of millions of Americans are on these programs, and on this program, and lawmakers know that. The bill adds work requirements, which is something that most GOP lawmakers were pretty united around, but one of the more controversial, you could say, changes some of the tax provisions for states, which could affect really how much federal funding they get from the government. And that was particularly an issue for lawmakers who have, constituents in, rural areas. And they were worried that some of those changes could particularly hurt rural hospitals. And so one area where we saw some movement and people get on board despite having these concerns was GOP leaders created a fund specifically set aside for rural hospitals, and it has, $50 billion in it set aside to help these hospitals. And we're going to keep learning more about some of these things that were set aside. But, this just happened, so it might just take a bit to find it all out.
Well, those rural hospitals are saying that's not enough. But you talk about some of the GOP fiscal hawks who are unhappy with the trillions that's being added to the deficit. Elon Musk is on a tear about that, but also cuts to burgeoning energy business. In the end, did this not matter? I mean, is this also us seeing, Donald Trump kind of winning in that category?
Well, I think it gets back to what a lot of the congressional Republicans up here have been saying from the beginning, which is that this bill is, President Trump's domestic agenda. I mean, and it's been in their way of framing it, it's really focused on these tax cuts, on, border security, defense spending. And so that's what they keep going back to when there is opposition, either from Democratic lawmakers or outside public figures, like you say. They say this is what the bill is about. And so I think that's kind of the message we keep hearing, is it's a framing conversation to them. And I also think that for the Medicaid cuts specifically, the argument has been about what they see as rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. That's the phrase we keep hearing over and over again. And again, that's, disputed by Democrats on the other side of the aisle. But we will see how some of these more controversial issues like Medicaid cuts end up kind of playing out with Americans across the country, because as we know, that program is very popular among voters, including Republican voters.
Look, just briefly, how are Democrats feeling to you right now? I mean, besides tired, are they exulting? President Trump's going to have to own this, or are they feeling defeated? What's your sense?
Well, I mean, you'd have to ask House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who spoke for more than 8 hours. But I think that there's been a push from lots of Democratic voters to see the party fired up and fighting back. And so you could argue that was seen today. But they're going to be, highlighting a lot of what this bill does, and the effects it has on Americans heading into the midterm. So we will have to see, even though some of those changes, conveniently for Republicans, do not start until after the midterms, notably the Medicaid ones.
That's right. NPR Washington reporter Elena Moore, thanks so much.
Thank you.
No doubt. To live and die in L.A. What you say about Los Angeles? Still the only place for me that never rains. To live and die in L.A.
The ACLU sued the Trump administration this week, alleging that federal immigration agents roving the streets of Southern California are picking people up for deportation based on the color of their skin. Fears that the government is racially profiling are growing as agents continue to target street vendors, day laborers, car wash workers, even people just out for walks. NPR's Adrian Florido reports.
Immigration agents arrested Emma de Paz on June 19th when they showed up at a Los Angeles Home Depot and began chasing day laborers through the parking lot. She had been selling breakfast to those workers from a food cart on the sidewalk. She later called her brother, Carlos Barrera, from the Federal Detention Center. Here's what he says she told him.
La hincaron, le apuntaron con armas largas como que fuera una criminal.
They handcuffed her, forced her onto her knees, and pointed a gun at her, Barrera says. His sister is undocumented, but he says the agents could not have known that. They didn't ask if she had papers. They didn't ask her any questions.
No le preguntaron si tenía documentos o no, simplemente la agarraron y la metieron a las venas que cargaban.
They simply grabbed her and loaded her into the van, Barrera says. He and his sister are from Guatemala. They're dark-skinned.
Asumieron que era hispana y por ser hispana se la llevaron.
They assumed she was Hispanic, and that's why they took her, he says. His sister is still detained. Since early June, ICE and Border Patrol agents have been carrying out surprise raids all across Southern California, often in public places. In a federal lawsuit this week, the ACLU and other legal groups said agents patrolling the streets are engaged in widespread racial profiling. ACLU lawyer Mohammed Tajsar spoke at a press conference announcing the suit.
To them, if you are brown, they will hunt you down. To them, if you have dark skin, they will take you in.
Many recent immigration sweeps have been filmed by bystanders. The videos show masked agents descending on individuals or groups of people out in public. They appear overwhelmingly to be working-class Latinos.
There is a real sense that it is open season on anyone who appears to be an immigrant.
Eva Bitran is Director of Immigrants' Rights at the ACLU of Southern California.
They are arriving, corralling people before asking one single question, just based on their location and their appearance. Often they are handcuffing and putting in vans people even before they have asked for their papers. Or even after a person has said, I am a U.S. citizen, or I have a green card, I have every right to be here.
She hopes the judge hearing the ACLU's suit will find agents are acting unlawfully and order them to stop. Jean Reese is professor of immigration law at the University of Southern California.
I suspect that there is a lot of illegality going on.
Under federal law, immigration agents can arrest someone in public without a warrant, but they have to first have reasonable suspicion that they're in the country illegally. But Reese says
reasonable suspicion has to be based on what's called articulable facts. So it can't just be based on race. It can't be this person looked like what I think someone from another country looks like.
In a statement to NPR, Tricia McLaughlin with the Department of Homeland Security denied that agents are targeting people based on the color of their skin. DHS enforcement operations are highly targeted and officers do their due diligence, she said, adding, we know who we are targeting ahead of time. Lawyers and advocates say those claims are undermined by the videos of people being picked off the streets seemingly at random.
He's an American citizen, bro, come on!
And by the fact that even U.S. citizens are being detained, people like Javier Ramirez. On June 12th, Border Patrol agents walked into a junkyard east of Los Angeles and handcuffed Ramirez and other men working there. His brother, Abimael Dominguez, filmed his arrest on his cell phone.
Yeah, he's a U.S. citizen, bro. All U.S. citizens. All U.S. citizens. Look what you guys are doing.
Ramirez tussles with an agent who has him pinned against a fence. The agent pushes him to the ground. Agents then load him into a van. Dominguez, still filming, runs after it.
They're hostage my brother. Hey, you can't take him. You can't take him. You can't take him.
I recently met Dominguez outside the junkyard.
We're Americans. You're not targeting undocumented people, brother. You're just racial profiling. Because if somebody's telling you, I'm an American, I got my passport in my wallet, you release the guy, let him go.
According to court papers, agents took Ramirez to a downtown L.A. detention center. They verified that he was a U.S. citizen. They also charged him with assaulting, resisting, or impeding a federal officer. He was released on bail, but his brother says he's traumatized and doesn't want to leave his house.
You know, that sucks. That sucks to be a U.S. citizen and not be able to walk in the country of freedom, you know? It sucks that we're antagonized for being Hispanic, you know?
An L.A. federal judge has scheduled the first hearing to consider the ACLU's racial profiling claims against the government next week. Adrian Florido, NPR News, Los Angeles.
Mama says police misshoot black people. Is it true? Yeah, is it true? Is that true? Yeah, is it true? Is that true? Is it true?
The Trump administration's crackdown on immigrants is fueling conversations around the country about law enforcement tactics and the rights of immigrants and those accused of violating laws. It has also stirred a conversation in black communities where organizers say it's a reminder that they have long been targets of aggressive policing. From member station GBH, Paul Singer has the story of a Boston-based effort to remind black people of their rights when confronted by law enforcement.
Ron Bell walks into a bookstore in a mostly black neighborhood in Boston.
I got something for you.
Bell runs a grassroots organization called Dunk the Vote, focusing on voting rights and civic engagement. But as social media fills with videos showing federal agents arresting immigrants off the streets, he wants black communities to remember that they are at risk as well.
I got some complimentary copies of the Know Your Rights Guide.
Since February, he's been handing out passport-sized guides called the Black Book in churches, barbershops, and restaurants.
I'm feeling a lot of traction. It's gotten to a point that I'm integrating into everything I do.
The book provides basic information on the right to remain silent, to ask to see a warrant, or to ask an officer to identify themselves. There's also contact information for the ACLU and other civil rights organizations.
I carry them around with me now. I mean, because people are calling me. Ron, you got any more than black books?
So far, he says, he's given away about 2,000 of them in Boston area neighborhoods, at events, and to other community organizations that have asked for them. Black civil rights organizations around the country say they're getting similar requests.
There are a number of Know Your Rights trainings that are happening across the country.
Jerica Richardson is the Senior Vice President for Equitable Justice and Strategic Initiatives at the National Urban League.
The division that I lead has been contacted by a number of our affiliates asking for guides, asking to support or participate in video production so that they can share this broad and wide.
Richardson says it's not just Latinos that are at risk of arrest. The black community is also vulnerable.
Within the black community, we have a huge Afro-Latino population. We have an Afro-Caribbean population. We have an African population. All of these communities are going to be subject to some of the same challenges.
Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell, like some Democratic officials elsewhere, has issued a Know Your Rights Guide outlining what federal agents can and cannot do, but she admits that's hard to enforce.
It's still very hard to hold the federal administration and ICE officials accountable for the activity we are currently seeing in Massachusetts.
Black activists say it's a problem they've had with police accountability for generations. The Boston Police Department did not respond to a request for comment. Since 2003, the NAACP has produced a guide called The 411 on the 5-0. It's much like Ron Bell's Black Book, listing the rights a person has when confronted by police.
This is a situation that has been going on for the entire history of the organization.
That's Wisdom Cole, the NAACP's Senior National Advocacy Director. He says the immigration crackdown is an opportunity for communities of color to unite.
I think this is really an issue of solidarity and ensuring that we recognize that if they come for one of us, they come for all of us.
Ron Bell, the Boston organizer, says he's preparing black men if someone comes for them.
What normally happens to black men or black boys, you learn these things once you get arrested. Then you find out, wow, I didn't know I had rights.
With that, he steps into another diner to hand out more black books.
Good. I got this for you, man. To Know Your Rights Guide.
For NPR News, I'm Paul Singer in Boston.
Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo.
Two men are caught after fleeing from the top supermarket on Jefferson Avenue after they allegedly passed a ghost gun back and forth inside the store and then threatened two people with it outside in the parking lot.
Now, this is the same location where a racist mass shooting took place on 5/14. News 4 Investigates has been digging into this story, and our Rob Petrie is here with the details. Rob.
Yeah, that's right, Dave and Jordan. Police reports obtained by News 4 Investigates detail how the incident unfolded last week and what some local officials have to say about what transpired.
Anything in that moment could have happened and someone could have gotten hurt. And my child was there. Again, people and their families were there.
Multiple police reports obtained by News 4 Investigates state the incident at the Jefferson Avenue Tops took place a little after 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 17th, when a man called 911 to report someone pulled a gun on him and his daughter. The police report states the daughter called her father, claiming a man pulled a gun on her. The father then rushed to the scene and told police the suspect's car almost hit his truck in the Tops parking lot. That's when the report says the one suspect rolled down his window, waved the gun at him, and then sped away. According to the report, surveillance video shows the two men passing a gun back and forth inside the store. The concerning incident happened at the same Top supermarket as the racist mass shooting in May of 2022, killing 10 black people and injuring 3 others. Common Council Majority Leader Leah Halton Pope represents the district the store is in.
Any instances where you hear that there's a gun at a spot that was fraught with tragedy just a few years ago is a challenging thing to process at the moment.
News 4 also sat down with Councilwoman Zanetta Everhart. Her son, Zaire, was seriously injured in the mass shooting, and their lives were forever changed. Zaire was also there last week.
My son is back to work at Tops. He was in the store that day. And to know that my son was right back in a dangerous space where anything could have happened, it crushes you.
Soon after the suspects allegedly fled the Tops last Tuesday, police were able to stop the vehicle about 5 blocks away from the supermarket. Officers seized 2 loaded 9mm ghost guns from the vehicle and 3 loaded magazines from the driver's pants. In total, police seized 50 rounds of ammunition. It's important to note the reports do not mention a motive or any further details about why these men were at the store with the weapons. The Erie County District Attorney says they have made great strides in reducing violent crime in Buffalo, but there's still too many illegal guns on the street.
We take it extremely seriously, as does our partner, the Buffalo Police Department. And, we are going to handle this case in a fair and just way, but, being mindful that the community is, obviously very seriously affected, and the people that live in the most violent communities are tired of the gun violence in their communities. So we deal with it every day.
Police have charged 34-year-old Avelo Pena with criminal possession of a weapon, assault, and several other charges. The police report states he resisted arrest and bit an officer's finger. A second suspect, 38-year-old Ronnie Midget of Buffalo, was also charged with criminal possession of a weapon. Moving forward, both council members we spoke with vowed to continue their fight to keep Buffalo safe and stressed how this incident should not discourage anyone from going about their daily lives.
Buffalo is still a city of good neighbors. We still love one another. We still take care of one another. And I don't want to ever be fearful, and I'm not fearful. I still shop at Tops. I still go in there, and I won't stop.
I can't be the only voice talking about gun violence. And, of course, as it relates to mass shootings or the day-to-day shootings or, whatever is happening in the community with our young people, it has to be everyone having that conversation and saying this is not okay.
Now, we also reached out to Tops for a response to the incident. They issued a statement saying their top priority is the safety of their customers, associates, and the community, and that they maintain a strong security presence with enhanced security systems at the Jefferson Avenue location. They then went on to say that their video surveillance, quote, indicates that no firearms were pulled on any individuals on the Tops property. We understand the exchange of a firearm inside the store is still under investigation by the Buffalo Police Department. Now, both suspects remain behind bars tonight. If convicted on the highest charge, they face maximum of up to 15 years in prison. Reporting live here in studio, Rob Petrie, News 4 Investigates.
Gus T. Before we get started, we have lots of listeners. For years, we've had lots of listeners in the Texas region. They have the floods and dozens reported missing and or perhaps fatalities because of the floods that have taken place. We have lots of listeners in the Texas area. Hope folks, non-white people, are safe. Victims of racism are safe. Doing as best they can. Non-white people in the region with the floods. That's it. Gus T. Renegade, worthless Negro from Virginia, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Saturday, July 5, 2025. So I have been told. Can I say right quick with the Texas flooding situation? They were talking about Camp Mystic. This is where they had, I think, 20 girls. Based on the information that I've seen about this camp, I'm no expert. I've not been to Kerrville, Texas in my life, I don't believe. But based on the information that I've seen, pictures of the camp and who's visited the camp over some years, I suspect it could be all white people at this camp. Have to see. But I did see reports, allegations of racism at Camp Mystic way before we got to this incident, like years before, where they dress up and mock so-called Native Americans at the camp, and they had pictures of this. So, man, I have to look at the demographics of Kerrville to see, like, yeah, how many non-white people reside in this area, how many dark people live in this area, and then, yeah, I have to say, oh, I found it didn't take too long. Okay, so the demographics for Kerrville, not that big of a city or area, 25,000, a little over 25,000 people, and then, let's see, for the racial demographics, oh my goodness, is the information not included? That is crazy. They didn't even include the information on the first, that I normally go to the .gov site because they have the census information, but they did not have the racial demographic information included for Kerrville. Like, what? I don't even know what to say about that because I haven't had that happen before, and I've looked at some really tiny places. Like, let's see. Okay, so the AI, now it might be wrong, they get you sometimes, but they didn't have it on the government census site, says that the white population makes up about 65% approximately of Kerrville, and black people are about 2.14% of the population, so could be racially restricted region, not sure. Definitely not too many dark people there, but at minimum, I don't think too many black people hang out at Camp Mystic in Kerrville. Like, we can look back over the years and see if we got any listeners who went down, you got nieces and they went down to Kerrville for Camp Mystic. Let us know and I'll stand corrected. 2% black people in Kerrville though, so anyway, Compensatory Call-In, weekly broadcast. Hopefully everybody has all of the fingers and toes that you started the week with. You still have. At least for the people in the U.S., if you watched and or participated in any so-called battle simulations, fireworks displays, hey, you did so in a safe manner, and you got all your fingers and toes, and you did not burn down any structures, vehicles, people. Any hoodles, the number to dial, 720-716-7300, the code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. I do have the Sober Weekend edition posted with this broadcast. If you are keeping it sober, drinking water, maybe you spice it up a little bit, add a little lime to your water, maybe even do sparkling water, a little ice and lime. Ooh, being rowdy for the so-called holiday weekend, but I'm teetotaling for the weekend. I'm not doing no Mad Dog 2020. keeping it sober, set an example for the young people that, hey, yes, it can be a constructive time, summertime, holiday with the family, and we do not have to get liquored up for the occasion. Spectacular. They got dry January, right? They do dry July or lots of other ways where they can, hey, they say it's carcinogenic once you are at 1 drink per week. Anything above that is carcinogenic. So holidays should not be an excuse like, hey, we need to cut loose and drink, 15 drinks and 15 shots. Like, come on. And much less get behind the road, because they will have sobriety checkpoints, as you heard. 100 deadliest days on the road. Don't contribute to that if you can, as a non-white person, victim of racism. Sobriety would be best. Any hoodles, number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Let us know how you have endured the holiday foolishness. Did you travel, deal with all that on the road, or you behaved yourself and, not messing around too much? Maybe staying at home, do some cleaning, do some cooking, do some prepping, because I suspect a lot of folks have to return to the plantation this coming week. So perhaps we just prep and get ready for the next week, maybe. Anyway, we'll get to some of the news reports, what have you, that we played, and then if folks have any other news reports from the past week or what have you, constructive suggestions on how to replace white supremacy with justice immediately, let us know. For one, make sure visit the foundation, Sade's Voice Foundation.com. Pray for Sade's mom, Miss Scarborough, as well as her other daughter, for sure. Keep them sentencing still coming and civil trials, so lots that they are dealing with all of that. Pray for them. Visit the foundation. Keep in touch what's going on and all that good stuff. Sade's Voice Foundation.com. All of that said, we started off this here week. PSA, they might call it, public service announcement, for at least the people that are in the U.S. Although I think it would be applicable to people who live beyond, because they do, summertime, and they do a lot of the same things. They don't do July 4th per se, but they still do the get together and let's get liquored up and have fireworks for other reasons. I see that at Wimbledon, and they have other events across the globe during the summertime where they do fireworks and stuff. So the PSA at the beginning about the fireworks. Oh, man, even though it was a little lengthy, and I did think, hey, we got retired firefighter right here. I bet he got some, war stories from July 4 and having to go out and people acting a fool after they'd drunk a little Mad Dog 2020, and now we want to go out with the sparklers or the fireworks or whatever contraption that they got, pyrotechnics as they call it, and hope they don't burn the house down. If not, I done lost the thumb. Oh, man. Come on. Watch it on TV, man. When he said, man, people lose their mind. He said, any other time, they said, if I said, hey, we're going to do a movie, it's going to be great. Might even be about racism. And we're going to have some fireworks and explosions in it. You think you could take, the day off tomorrow and you come and help me do the explosions? I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Most of us with good sense anyway. Whoa, man, I don't do no explosions, man. I beat and blew my thumb off. Most of us with any sense, that would be the logical, reasonable response. It might be a few of us say, let me watch a few TikTok videos on this. I get trained up and I'll be there. What time you say be there tomorrow? That's not going to be most of us, though, with good sense. Why in the world, July 4 comes, you got all these children around, all these intoxicated people, and now Everybody, hey, we got the fireworks, let's go, woo, we're going to have a good time. Even the sparklers, he said, man, the temperature, 1,200 degrees, you going to give that to a child? Come on, man. Come on. Come on. And all in the name of battle simulation. Let's do something constructive and safe. My white brother with the fire department, he said, we don't even get in the water on the 4th of July because it's just way too much stuff going on. People are not paying attention. He kept in, how many times did they kept saying, alcohol? Alcohol. I'm going to do the fireworks, but I've been drinking, so my balance isn't quite what I think it is, and I'm stumbling and fumbling and having difficulty liking it, and I'm not really thinking the same, and I done lost 2 thumbs. Oh, man. Oh, man. People lose a whole hand sometimes messing around with all this, and other people not paying attention, and all this. Sobriety would be best. Maybe no fireworks. At minimum, go let the professionals. This is my job. This is what we do. Fireworks. Or the drone display. Even better. We don't have all that smoke and pollution in the air. Even better. But I'm going to go let the professionals do that. I'm not going to play with no fire, much less let my children play with fire. And that segment was a little lengthy, right? Sometimes people, man, I don't have no attention span like that. Gus out here crazy. Anything that is that lengthy, I make myself listen to it twice to make sure now, is this worthwhile to play all this? Oh, man, just for the times that alcohol was mentioned alone, you had Gus T locked. Now, when he continued, and they said, man, the legislation has gotten worse if we're talking about keeping people safe for this so-called holiday. He said it used to be you could go to the store, maybe they had a few of those little spirally things, that you set on fire and they don't do too much, or maybe they had a few light firecrackers or what have you, smoke bombs maybe. He said, oh my goodness, man, they got the rocket launchers and all kinds of concoctions, burn the whole neighborhood down now. Or if you got a close by area, if you got drought, so-called climate change in many areas, like, oh man, it's gotten worse. He said, now you can go to any old, Safeway, Piggly Wiggly, Kroger, Publix, Harris Teeter, Pete's, Fruits, whatever. You just walk right in and, oh man, everything's short of a rocket launcher and they got it. You just walk right in. Now I've seen that even here in Seattle, where technically it is not legal for fireworks to be let off in the city proper, unless it's like professionals, the Seahawks at the stadium, something like that. Other than that, but like me, just citizen, John Q. Citizen, Jane Q. Citizen, to go out and let out, that is supposed to be illegal within Seattle proper to do so. But on the 4th, oh man, and we talked about this during COVID, this was happening. And all you have to do is step like 10 miles, I'm going to say 10 miles, 15 miles outside the city proper of Seattle, which is also very easy to do even if you don't have a vehicle here. And they have fireworks stands and all that stuff set up galore everywhere. But you get the same thing he said, it'll just be mountains of that stuff. Pow, pow, pow. They'd be letting that stuff off for a whole month or so. Battle simulation. And whose interest does that serve? All this, we got to go and let off all that bombs, boom, boom, and then. Now, we remember Columbine, sometimes all of these fireworks, because they said it's just black powder. Same thing, I think that was the part where they said we get to the dark side, but they said we got black powder that you would use to load a bullet for a gun. And it's just kind of, these fireworks are manufactured in a haphazard manner, just slopped together. He said it's not like something highly technical and we just put it out there and you go have a few beers and light it out. Like, come on. And as I was saying, sometimes these devices get repurposed for Columbine, Unabomber, Eric Rudolph, even the folks up in Boston, frequently they get repurposed. So it's no longer battle simulation. It's the real deal. Hey, you got the other way. I done lost a hand. Intentionally this time, though. Facts. And they said make it easier for people to get this stuff and deadlier versions of these haphazard made devices. I'm going to submit again. All that's white culture. We ain't got nothing to celebrate. I don't do fireworks for Juneteenth either. And I don't think I've ever in my life seen them do no fireworks for Black History Month, like ever. I wouldn't even know what that looks like. What is it, like red, black, and green display? They put Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks up in the air. I have never seen that in my life. So, I mean, they don't do no fireworks for no niggers. I'm totally fine. And the environmental impact alone, I'm totally fine with doing away with that. You ain't even got to do the drones for me to keep it real. Anyway, they play all that, and then we got to the 100 deadliest days on the road, and all they did was talk alcohol all through that segment again. And they're going to have more sobriety checkpoints in Suffolk County, New York. I'm glad I ain't nowhere close to Suffolk County, even though I have been there before. But, ooh-wee, hop behind that. And I would especially share that with young people, especially during this type of weekend, Labor Day weekend, the so-called holiday weekends, summertime, popular events, festivals. We got to go to the beach and get liquored up and doped up and get behind. Then you add that with what they talked about in Milwaukee and all the other places where they got the drag racing, and we got to go out on the motorbikes and be reckless on the road anyway. And now we're liquored up. We got a little mad dog in the system. Oh, man. We'll run over 15 pedestrians just going one block. I would for sure share that. Young people, newer drivers, even older people. Let's be sober, man. They got Uber, they got the Lyft, all that. I say, hey, get to one location and stay put. If you gotta consume, it's, the holiday weekend, and holiday fell right this time, Gus T, man. It fell on Friday, man. We got to get down until Monday. I got to get a teaspoon of the Mad Dog in this weekend. Fine. Be codified about that. Get to one spot. Hey, make it, try and see. I'm not gonna come in contact with no white people while I sip my Mad Dog, racists. I'm also not going to be around any non-white people who get non-constructive under the influence of Mad Dog, which might be a challenge. But I'm not going to be any place where I get my sip of Mad Dog and then I got to get in the car and drive 30 miles. Like, oh man, you are asking for all kinds of trouble. And even, real talk, even if you've been teetotaling, Dr. Kanban say after 10 p.m., 11 o'clock, and I would say particularly on so-called holiday weekends like this, I would be in the house. It is total madness. Like, late night, you got everybody. I got to go out and get down, and everybody. We all got to have a teaspoon of Mad Dog. It's holiday weekend. Man, come on. I told you, I stayed next to the beach in Milwaukee. I didn't go out after dark. Street lights come on, deuce it. You ain't gonna do no fire down on the beach. You and all that. Soon as I got back, days after I got back, literally within 2 days, exact beach I was just stretched out on. They said, whoa, they tasering folks and got the beach take. Oh, whoa. Come on. And what they say, alcohol was a factor. People being under the influence. Now we got to turn up at the beach. Act out so they can put us on IG. I would let and in fact, I would also tell young people, I would try to avoid locations where it's a whole lot of people. Man, you are asking for trouble if it's going to be a whole lot of people. That's just even more likelihood that many people will be under the influence of something. Somebody will have a firearm. It'll be some conflict of some sort if it's a lot of people. Police will have to be there. Security will have to be there. Just, man, fire code violation. I mean, it's just chance of a lot of different problems if it's a large collection of people for this event. Try to do something smaller where you're not with this big crowd, big glob of people, and at minimum, then you got to go through traffic, sobriety checkpoint. I would try and avoid all that, especially if you are younger, non-white people classified as black. Can be dangerous. Let's see. they talked about the long-term impact of, oh, wait a minute, I got to pause. Man, when they were talking about fire safety in that first report, and they said, hey, one easy suggestion that I would give to everyone, in addition to have the fire hose right next to you, if you got to do the fireworks in the backyard and impress the children, fire hose is right there, maybe a big bucket of water too, someone who's sober to man all that. They said, have a fire extinguisher. I thought of retired firefighter, one more again on that one. Fire extinguisher. Yes, indeed. And I thought that just as someone who cooks frequently. I think everybody, if you cook in your residence, you should have a fire extinguisher. And even really, if you don't cook in your, and I think everybody cooks from time to time in their residence, even if it's nothing but boiled water, you should have a fire extinguisher in your residence. Period. Like doubly so if you have children, and maybe if you are like Diddy and you got like a compound or a villa, like you don't just have a old regular no count spot with 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms, you got one of them old 7 bedroom, compounds. Maybe you have 2 fire extinguishers. Maybe you have 3, you got to have one on each floor type of a deal, but have a fire extinguisher. It is super dangerous on so many accounts, and just, whatever. Just have it there. Just that. Hopefully you never have to use it. You can check it to make sure it's a, he said you can get a really quality one for $20. Just in case, especially you got that fire pit, you got those fireworks, you got that stove, you got them candles, but you got them children fire extinguisher. PSA, man. PSA. I had a moment. Hey, stand by your work. I had just a little tinge of Negro slave pride. Like, man, at least for 20 minutes or so. That is not coon talk. That is not fool talk. That is constructive. Be about constructive things. We're going to stay safe because the plantation is so unsafe. We're going to be about safety. Get that fire extinguisher. Sobriety would be best. Drink that water. We are not drinking and driving. Like safe, constructive things, because this system of white supremacy encourages so much reckless behavior, and especially encourages this amongst non-white people. We don't need none of that. We need to replace white supremacy with justice and do logical things, common sense things. Fire extinguisher. Now, and 100 deadliest days on the road, we don't contribute to that at all. Maybe even have a fire extinguisher in your vehicle too, maybe. Let's see. They got to the lead in Chicago. I spoke to Miss Scarborough, and she got defensive about Milwaukee. She said, man, Gus T, you can sit up and badmouth Milwaukee all the time, act like they don't have lead problems. I said, they got lead problems in a whole lot of places. That's not just Milwaukee. I said, you right, Miss Scarborough. You right. The lead, they got lead problem in Chicago. And the victim in New Jersey, they got the lead problem in Newark. We know about Flint. Benton Harbor, it just goes on and on and on and on. And I mean, hey, they don't just have a lead problem in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They have a lead problem throughout Wisconsin, even in Whitefish Bay. So that is absolutely correct. And then Chicago isn't really that far from Milwaukee. I mean, you could probably drift down the Milwaukee River and get to Chicago in about a day, 2 days, like effortlessly. Just drift down Lake Michigan and you be there in, I don't know, like I said, day, 2 days? It's super close. So, and you got high populations of Negroes in both cities, Chicago, New York. The lead problem, you already heard, they said in Chicago. Now, the phrasing that was used on that WBEZ report was that in Chicago, the lead problem it is environmental injustice. Victims guaranteed qualified, but I thought they got whole books and things that just make it plain. Environmental racism, isn't that what they say? I think you can go get like a degree. You can go to like white people's school and get a whole degree in environmental racism. You might even get to read Harriet A. Washington and Dr. Robert Bullard. These are black authors who, written and talked about this subject eloquently, accurately for like decades. You can get a whole degree in that. They don't call it environmental racism. Real talk, I thought about Dr. Welsing when she talked about Flint and some of these issues with the lead. She called it chemical and biological warfare until proven otherwise. Facts. And especially in a city like Chicago with so many black people, in the name of obesity, y'all got all these goofy reasons to try to justify why it costs so much? Come on. That is the lamest of them all. Fuller talked about that. Like, white people, they pay for whatever they want. Anything that they think is necessary and important, they shell out the money. Mark Zuckerberg out here tossing around 100,000. Come on now. He's tossing around $100 million contracts. As I say, AI is important, so we just got to spend $100 million. Let's go. Let's buy up all the talent. Whatever they think is important, they put the money down. What's more important than water? What's the reason for having the Tesla if we ain't gonna have no water to drink? What's the reason for having anything if we're not gonna have no water to drink? Come on. And they come up with lame excuses. But even with all those lame excuses, they say, we know the Negro, they especially will pay for the water in Chicago. Put that on Harold Washington, too, and Jesse Jackson. Yes. And even within that report, when they rattled off the cities, they said, the cities has got the worst, and I mean the worst, don't drink the water lead problem is right here in Chicago. Is right there in Cleveland. I said, man, I wonder, and it's right there in Milwaukee. I said, yep, that's it. Sorry, Miss Scarborough, but once again, I do not ever hear nothing good about Milwaukee. But she is still correct. They do have lead problems in many regions. Facts. And particularly where black people live. Facts. Let's see. Wait a minute. That segment on the lead, when they went back and were talking about the history and lead being incorporated in the pipes and some of the folks in Chicago in the different lead manufacturing industries, white people said, oh no, we're going to fight against this and we'll still do it and it's cheap and all that. We're going to make a racket out of this. Man, that book, Agnotology, Agnotology, Agnotology. It's an older book, but I just learned about it this year. Oh my God. They got a whole section on lead and lying white people. Now, agnotology means like the science of ignorance and what we don't know, and even the manufacturing of ignorance. Some may even say white people lying. One of the massive explanations in that book. Now, in fact, we heard two of them. One was climate change and one was lead. With lead, I'll take the earlier one first. They said, oh my goodness, white people have known that lead is toxic and that no level of lead is safe for human consumption. White people have known this for like eons. I mean, like more than a century. White people have known. This is not one of those, oh, what? The lead? What? That's been, who? Freddie Gray was, who? Nah, man, they knew this and went about lying. And said, well, it's muddled. You got muddy waters, almost like Flint. We don't really know if lead is bad. But they say the jury is still out. And they come around and do the same thing with cigarettes. And they come around and do the same thing with climate change. Well, we don't really know. It's up for debate. There are different opinions. Is it climate change? Is it just an off-season? That sort of thing where they just come out and lie when they know this is not up for debate, that you have like 98% agreement that yes, it is climate change. We know the lead will poison your brain computer and Freddie Gray you. We know that. But we're going to lie and continue to poison these niggers and even have some white sacrifice in there too. But we're okay with that as long as we poison lots of niggers. agnotology. You can just look for the section on lead. Let's see. They had that segment on ICE, takedowns of non-white peoples. I know some of the folks take the position, hey, I'm only concerned about people classified as black born in this part of the world. Red, white, and blue for us. VGQ, victims guaranteed qualified. I did think it was, what shall I say, cute, noteworthy. They had the little ditty in there. If you're brown, they take you down. You got dark skin, they take you in. I'm like, oh man, that you tack on what Dr. Wells is, you black, get back. You're brown, stick around. They might say, hey, they didn't remix that one up. Ooh, you're brown, get out of here. I just told you, they take you down. We'll have to see. We'll have to see, but they have had those protests right here in Seattle. It's one thing that I will say, it galls me to no end with people classified as white, because some of these folks end up being, classified like they are John and Jane Brown of the 21st century. Gag me on that racist metaphor. But they'll be like, oh man, not in my name. You're not gonna arrest and nab these people, put them in detention camps where you make new jobs for people in Louisiana and other locations, but you're not going to do it in my name. You're not going to boost our economy, locking and cuffing up these people and just going out and snatching brown people and making ditties about it. If you're brown, we take it down. And I don't care if they're not here illegally. You're not going to do it. That galls me to no end. White people terrorize and practice racism. It's lots of non-white people that were born here that y'all go around and mistreat, and y'all don't come out with this much enthusiasm and effort like we got to defend, and we got to do something about this, and racism has upset. What I say, we are sincerely and greatly pained about how you treat Leroy and the rest of the non-white, even the non-black people that were born here. U.S. citizens, they got birth certificates and all that. They don't get riled up. They don't get mad about all of that. They don't act like, oh man, they got the detention center. It's disgraceful what President Trump, please. The judge in Milwaukee, she went out there obstructing justice. They were coming to detain a non-white person. She said, oh no, you're not. If that had been Leroy, and they were going to unjustly detain him, maybe the facial recognition got him, and, well, you fit the profile, you're going in, you got to go in. Well, she went out there, wait a minute, Leroy, I know you didn't do this. I'm a cause a distraction. Going out the back bathroom window, and I got your back, Leroy. Come on. They had the segment about Trump's big, beautiful bill. I purposely used Dr. Welsing talking about end-stage white supremacy. One thing I did see in that bill, amongst many, about the cuts to Medicaid and funds, they said, to the most vulnerable people, which would have to be non-white people, victims of white supremacy, especially the darker you are, classified as black. Oh, man. But one thing I did see amongst, cuts to all pro-Medicaid and funding of that nature, they said that ICE, unless I read it incorrectly, but I saw it, multiple, Newsweek had it, Democracy Now!, ICE, I think they got like $170 billion in funding. They are now the most well-funded enforcement agency in the United States. Like, wow. That's more money than Homeland Security? Like, woo! I mean, and ICE might be a part of the Homeland Security. I might have to go back and, look to see, how all of that is classified. But I mean, wow, that just seems like, now once again, now what is important? They didn't say we don't have $170 billion, ICE. I know Gomez is a problem, and we got to take down these folks that's brown, but, hey, I don't know. Can we do the brownie sale? You think we get the bake sale together to get a few nickels? They didn't tell them that. Now, I personally think it doesn't really matter if we round up all the, Gomez, Pablo, we round up all these folks, Maria, gonna get some non-white females in there too, but it doesn't really matter if we don't have no water. I can tell you, I was trying to fly back to Seattle. I was in the airport in Minnesota. We got on the plane. We out on the tarmac. They held up that plane for an hour. Why? They didn't say we got to hold up because ICE has come on the radio and they have let us know Gomez is on the plane and he ain't even supposed to be in the country. We got to stop. Gomez, get on. Y'all, come on, let's help us get Gomez out. That's not what they said. They said, like we sounding like Flint or Milwaukee, we ain't got no agua. That's what they said, and you know what? You can't fly if you ain't got no agua. Now, I think we could have took off if Gomez had been on the plane. Illegally even. We could have took off. I'd have been here on time, but we didn't have no water. We had to sit on that tarmac for an hour, and then they had to come and explain, this is why we can't take off if we ain't got no water. You can't flush the toilet if we ain't got no water on the plane. Now, for most of us, they could have stopped right there. Like, oh, okay, I guess we got this 5-hour flight, so I guess, yeah, we're going to have to sit here until we get this water. And they went on with it because there was other important things on the list. Like, you can't wash your hands if we ain't got no water. I don't know what the list looks like if Gomez had been on the flight. This is why we can't. Gomez is a rapist. Maybe that's what they would have said. I don't know. Anyway, the bill has been passed. They can brag about it. I do not think that it's going to help us replace white supremacy with justice. I also think white people can be slick and deceptive because they said some components of the bill is going to take like 2 years for them to even phase into law, so they can act like they don't remember it. How did this happen? And all that old lies, master deceivers. Let's see, and the last thing I'll get it. Diddy finally had to get commentary on Diddy in all of this, where I guess, is this a teaspoon of black male privilege? I don't know. You all have to, I'm sure this has been talked about way more than the Sade C. Robinson trial was, which is disgraceful in my view. But I can see why. System of white supremacy. We got it. Privileged black male. Toxic privileged black male. But Diddy, take that. He can't stop. Won't stop. Acquitted on most of the charges. Now, he did get convicted prostitution. So they said maximum of 10 years. I don't think he's going to serve 10 years. The lawyers were able to do that much. I don't think he's going to serve 10 years. Especially, I mean, even if he did, if he was looking at life and now it's just 10 years, like, oh man, I'm for sure, unless he passes away in prison, some Jeffrey Epstein type thing, I'm for sure going to dance out of prison. I'm fit to do my own version of Enrique Tarrio. Andy Dufresne. I'm about to do the bad boy version of this, for sure. Might even appeal and be out sooner than you think. Black male privilege. I guess this might even be one of the only times I can think of, like Diddy and Obama, where I think, is this black male privilege, do you think? Do we think he got away with all of this and he should have been convicted? I think I will say pretty confidently, if this had been Gus T instead of Diddy, guilty on all counts. And it wouldn't have been, no news story of nothing like that. It would have just been back page, toxic Negro male, Gus T, convicted, all counts, rest of his life in prison, and we told you he was a worthless Negro. That would be about the size of it. But any other Negro that couldn't afford all that legal team, guilty or no, he'd have been convicted, period. So, is it a black male privilege? Black male privilege, maybe? That might even be one of the few times I can even think of. Like, wow, Diddy has been out. Even that, now, if that is black male privilege, I don't think Diddy, even though he was almost convicted and no count rapist like the rest of us, I don't think Diddy's life is representative of the typical black male. Like, not even, I think that's laughable to even suggest that. Like, my life being comparable to Diddy? Really? How? You got to be Joe. I seen Diddy sitting front row next to Donald Trump at the Floyd Mayweather fight. Now you go find me where Gus T, me and Obeezy, we sitting at Churchill Downs. You find us sitting at the finals rooting on LeBron James. Anything. Tiger Woods in his heyday. Anything. That's my lived. Any of you Negro males out there, retired firefighter, that's your lived experience. You and Diddy say, yeah, me and Diddy. Matter of fact, we used to be neighbors. They mix our bank accounts up all the time. Come on, man. Come on. That might be the only Negro that I can think of. Privileged black male, Sean P. Diddy. Cause he should take the Diddy out. I'm privileged black male. He'd make another album after all this. He can make a prison album. Privileged black male, Diddy. We'll just call it privilege. Privileged. I love it. Privileged Diddy. Anyway, the number 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Sober weekend edition. Let us know if we have teetotalers. I didn't have no mad dog this weekend. Let us see. Folks who dialed in, commentary on the news sections, holiday suggestions on replacing white supremacy with justice immediately. Let us see. Victim in New Jersey, retired firefighter in Florida. If y'all have commentary, proceed.
Greetings, everyone.
Yes, sir.
I really can't recall any war stories on quote unquote the 4th of July. I'm sorry, 4th of July. I guess because maybe I wasn't scheduled to work that day or took the day off for some reason. I'm not sure, but everything that was said is accurate and correct safety policies that people should make. I would hope that non-white people who racially classified as black would pull up some information on our presence on July 4th, 1776, and up to July 4th of 2025, and make a decision on whether or not it would be accurate to even recognize that day of something other than just what's the day? Friday, and let it go at that. But as far as if those who are going to do it or should do it, it's pretty accurate. One thing I've noticed though for a couple of years that for the most part, the people that I notice who actually attend to fireworks are recent immigrants to this part of the world. And another thing that it kind of like quizzes me is that where do they get the money? I'm not saying people can't acquire income, but fireworks cost a lot of money, and literally there are fireworks being let off right now as I'm sitting down here in this place of residence, and I don't know where they get the money from. Think about it. You acquire money to buy something that would blow up in your sight, in your face in some cases. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, when I was a child, I engaged in all of that. I set fires when I was a child. But I didn't know any better. With it. I also would advise to have fire extinguishers in your vehicle also. That would be a handy tool, not only for your vehicle, it may be somebody else's vehicle that you may be concerned enough to assist a fellow driver. And there's a lot of cases where people's cars catch on fire. And I would say for the most part, if you wait for a fire rescue to get there, the car is no good. And, by that time, it has been fully involved, what we call fully involved by the time we get there. And but everything the firefighter was stating to do is vital and accurate. To have, water around. Yes, of course, you need to have a fire extinguisher in your house also. But those are my thoughts, especially on the quote unquote celebration that's called the 4th of July. We really need to do some studying on that subject in itself from a historical standpoint and a present day standpoint. And that's all I have to say for right now.
Much obliged, retired firefighter. Apparently intelligent enough to have either requested, or maybe he got just fortunate where they didn't schedule him to work July 4 too often. So right on, he missed out on some of that craziness down in Miami, where I'm sure they cut a fool. All the Uncle Luke history. He did mention about the expense of those explosive devices. Now that is true, and I'm not even someone, I don't go out, obviously I was here, we were doing the book club yesterday. Well, I guess I could have snuck off afterwards and all that, but I did not participate in any fireworks. I don't purchase fireworks. I don't have a history of purchasing firecrackers or any of that sort of thing to go out and do explosions for the holiday or any time early in July. But I have seen these devices for sale throughout the Washington state area, especially once you creep just a hair outside the Seattle city border. And they are priced, especially if you get some of those big ones and they launch and detonate in the air and all that. Like, yes, they can be very expensive. So, I mean, it's kind of an investment to even participate in all this beyond even, I'm going to go get all the hot dogs and grill and all the rest of it to go and, we're going to go and do all this to get all these explosives that where we might lose a hand or a finger or worse, burn the house down. Yeah, something at minimum, time and energy. We ain't got to get to the money aspect of it. The time and energy of all of this should be thought about under a system of white supremacy racism. Not to mention, if we're going to do all this, make sure we do it safely. Victim in New Jersey also with us.
Yeah, Gus. Just like a retired firefighter was stating, it's still letting fireworks off where I am. I went 4th of July. I spent it. I went to work. So once I got off work, I was extremely tired, so I couldn't attend any 4th of July activities, which was cool with me. Years ago, it was New Jersey banned certain fireworks, but I guess they loosened up the restrictions. And from what I'm seeing, these fireworks have gotten better. I mean, I've seen people that I know from my social media feeds releasing fireworks in the air that's similar to, like a fireworks show. So like the retired firefighter said, I would assume that these fireworks are very, very expensive. I don't like being out during that time because, the fireworks sound like gunfire. So I don't, I don't really, my anxiety kicks in. So, it just sounds too much like gunfire. And I do know that, at times people, will, shoot guns in the air during the 4th of July. So I don't really want to be around, people letting off fireworks, people that's not professional. But yeah, so even with the history of the 4th of July as it relates to black people, I really don't care. So, I spent my time in bed. When I was at work, speaking of immigration, I made a delivery. And, sometimes I have access to different sites where I deliver to, because I might deliver to restaurants, schools, because I deliver food. So deliver to a restaurant, I see the cleaning lady, she's looking at me, and I'm like, hey, you want to open the door? Can I come in and make my delivery? A lot of my job, they allow us, if the customer is okay with it, for us to just drop the delivery without a signature. I sign for it. I might just take a picture and send it to, we have a hotline that the customer received their items. So the lady wouldn't open the door, so I had to call the company. They called the chef, and, eventually she came to the door. I had to help her. A Dominican guy who was able to interpret what the lady was talking about, why the lady wouldn't open the door. And the cleaner lady wouldn't open the door because she didn't know whether or not we were ICE. So she was extremely afraid that it can be, an ICE raid. So, so it's tense in the food industry, where people work in these restaurants. So once she, found, said, the Dominican guy talked to her, he said, oh no, it's not a problem. He explained to me that, the lady is, afraid of ICE. And once we, drop the delivery, can we just make sure we lock the door? It's a crude joke. I'm indifferent with the whole thing because I'm not in control of this said situation, but it's a cruel joke because the powers that be, mainly white people, allowed this mass immigration for, I would say, cheap labor, to to undercut what they would normally pay people who were born in the United States. So with a stroke of a pen, you allow them to come in, work. With a stroke of a pen, now you're telling them to get out. It's just insane when you think about it, and how white people can just play around with people's lives. And again, I'm indifferent. The big beautiful bill, friend of mine's on the railroad, white guys that works on a railroad with him. He's a train engineer. He drives the trains. They're furious because I'm from what he explained to me, in this bill, there's supposed to be no tax on overtime, but some way, somehow, written in this bill, it excludes people that work in the rail industry and trucking. I would need more information on that. So, the white guys are upset. They're disappointed, and I guess they are having, how can I say, they're some of them are regretting voting for Donald Trump. So I told my friend, I said, hey, listen, I'm a lot of them guys are the pickup truck guys with the flags waving and, the gun toters. I say, hey, listen, man, y'all know what to do. Shit, y'all white men, get your guns and, go down to Washington. You know what I mean? Y'all, again, like I said, when you think that non-white people are going to be the only ones to be harmed, you guys are all for it. So, y'all voted for them, y'all have the power, you know what I'm saying? Hey, fight the power, good luck. It's an insult to our intelligence when they keep talking about debt when they pass these bills, because for the past 2 to 3 years or so, they've just been sending billions of dollars to fund this proxy war in Ukraine, and also sent billions of dollars to fund a proxy war in the Middle East. I don't hear them talk about debt. I don't hear them talking about we don't have the money. I don't hear them talking about a debt ceiling. They just send the money. But soon, when it's a bill that is domestic in nature, that's when they start talking about debt. And I think it's a crock of BS. I think it's lies. I think that this government prints money out of thin air. As it relates to the federal government, they have the ability to just print money. Now, the states, on the other hand, the states have to rely on taxes and other means to pay for things, and also get money from the federal government. But this is the biggest lie that have ever been told. These people just print money. Like you said, Gus, when they want something done, they put money behind it. They don't care about a debt ceiling. They don't care about none of that. So I don't use terms like where my tax dollars are going. I don't do it. I had a conversation with a female friend of mine. She was saying, cuts to, different programs such as, welfare, Medicaid, programs that help people who are either elderly or not working or need extra work. That needs extra money to subsidize whatever money, subsidize their cost of living. And I told her, she said, that's right, these people need to get up and go to work. And I asked her, I said, well, do you have that same opinion when your money is being shipped off to Iraq? Do you have, not Iraq, Israel or Ukraine? Do you have the same opinions when your money is subsidizing people like Elon Musk? It just seems cowardly to me that we are conditioned to beat up on the least amongst us. Some black female getting $300 a month for welfare, or a couple of $100 to subsidize their Medicaid or Medicare. That's a drop. That's not, that's minuscule for the money that this country sends to destroy other countries and destroy other people's lives across the planet. So I'll close.
Facts. The welfare queen, Brett Favre, I said he's running right there with Elon Musk for who is going to be the champion, the undisputed welfare queen of all time. Sick white brother Elon Musk, sick white brother Brett Favre, who didn't even get criminally charged for looting Mississippi's welfare. But yes, they can go after all these non-white people. So, oh no, you're mooching, you're looting, get a job. See, man, come on. Nobody does more mooching. Man, we can go back to the ICE detention. We can put all that together. I said that last week with that clip, man. Dr. Kamal Kamban, Grandcester, genius, he said all of that is white welfare. They go out to these suburbs, they go out to these rural counties and parishes in Louisiana. They got like 2,000, 4,000 white people with no hospitals, doctors, all of that, illiteracy problems, all the rest of it, low tax base. Hey, we know what. We'll build you a detention facility for these dark people. Yes, that exactly as he said that, hey, we're going to exploit these people, so we'll trick them. We'll get them to come over. We need somebody to pick these cucumbers, and we don't want to pay correctly for this. So we get these folks to come over here. They're illegal, so we can pay them real cheap because they're vulnerable, like Vili Falau. They're vulnerable. We can pay them real cheap, pay them nothing, and then when we get tired of them, maybe they get rowdy. Or maybe we just like practicing racism. We say, hey, call ICE. You ain't even supposed to be here. Yeah. Get them on out of here. Yeah. They're not supposed to be here. You know, they did get all the cucumbers. Wait a minute. All right. Let them get all the cucumbers first, and then, okay, now we call that. Yeah, now, get on out of here, Gomez. We didn't, you dirty scoundrel. We knew you snuck over here. We're going to get you. You coming over here. Racist joke. And then they've been doing it. Fuller talked about this like over a decade ago. He saw this because they've been doing the same thing forever. We'll sit here and grouse and complain. Oh, man. These immigrants, oh, man. Pedro and them, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, they rape. And then, wait a minute. But you paying Pedro to get the cucumbers. Well, I do got to get these cucumbers out. Well, which is it, man? Do you want Pedro to get the cucumbers or not? We ain't going to pay Pedro correctly, so we'd rather do it under the table. And then, get out from under that table, Pedro. This is ICE. You're going to be detained in Louisiana. It'd be funny, but I mean, that's about the size of it. I remember the white people, they were talking, this was just a couple months ago, end of 2024, and they were saying, man, white people, we just can't get our heads around this immigration reform. We just, because they like it the way it is. Lying, complain about the immigrants, and then we're going to go pay them. You're going to come around the back, we got to get this. We got the cucumbers. We got to get the lettuce out tomorrow. So you the man, Pedro. Buenos dias. Let's see. Make sure other folks, the number 720-716-7300, the code 564-943#. Press *61 if you would like to participate. They do bang shoot the guns in the air for the holiday. That for sure is anxiety inducing. Battle simulation, that's what I call it. I've said this would be a good time to do robberies and such, because with all the noise and blasts being detonated, how do they know? Is it gunfire? Is that another sparkler? Anyway, he said he'd seen a victim in New Jersey that his pals and such were posting on social media. It looks like they have like the professional goodies and the fireworks. I think that's what the officer was talking about in the clip, that they've had a loosening of regulations. So now you have these really powerful explosive devices that pretty much anybody can nab. And sometimes it's not even legal to detonate these devices in the region, according to even local rules and restrictions. On top of, are you qualified to safely detonate this? Have you been drinking before you attempt to detonate this? Anyway, he gave the anecdote as well about he's going to do the delivery. It was a non-white worker. She didn't want to let him in because she thought it might be a raid. Man, now, certainly I can understand if folks say, hey, people classified as black born in this part of the world, that is not our fight. That's not our struggle. We got our own problems with racism, and these folks are not concerned about people classified as black and or replacing white supremacy with justice anyway. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But it would be difficult for me to say, someone who is fearful of the Amazon delivery worker or, the FedEx worker. I'm afraid to even open the door because it might be someone to shackle me and take me off to Louisiana. They say you've been sold down the river. I heard that one before. Yeah. It would be hard for me to fuss at them. Man, you are messing it up. Folks like you. The person hiding behind the door. Like, the dark person hiding behind the door right there. All right. VGQ, victims guaranteed, qualified. I still submit humbly. The problem is white people. I know one thing for me, though. You had better not be out there, I don't care nothing about no non-white people that are not classified as black and not born in this part of the world. You can't be saying that and then come behind that and say, now, not all white people are racist. Like, oh, God. You can get victims guaranteed, qualified on that one too, but woo, it can't be that's paired with, some of these non-white people is lame, and I don't even want to hear about none of that. Now, Jane, my white friend, on the other hand, I know she got my back. Woo, man, victims guaranteed, qualified, but yeah, I can't go with you on that one at all. Let's see. And certainly the white people who are on the railroad industry, they know how to respond appropriately if they feel like they have not been adequately represented with the current bill. They can organize and get to it. That sounds like an industry, the railroad workers, where they probably deliberately kept out a lot of black people anyway. So, yes, white people, get to it. Get your no taxes on overtime or whatever. And those workers have been talking about that for a while because they've been having all those railroad accidents and spills and toxic chemicals flashed out all over the land and such. And they've been saying that part of it is they don't have enough workers. They're not adequately trained and they have to work all these crazy hours. So I would think, yeah, they would want more protection so that they can do a little better. Maybe they can have a little bit more safety in the rail industry here in the U.S. as well. But say the plantation is not safe, 4th of July or no other time. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Again, let us know how you have managed the so-called holiday weekend. Did you do any of the parties, fireworks, all that stuff? Younger people, did they go hang out and all that? Let us know how you managed it safely. If you have suggestions, replacing white supremacy with justice, or thoughts on any of the news segments that we heard, or any of those that we did not, play. It's lots of things. I didn't hear any commentary on Diddy either. Maybe folks we are all Diddy'd out for the summer, maybe, which would be grand as well. Plus, I guess the sentencing will come up, so we'll have more chances to chat on that, see how much black male privilege extends to his sentencing, which will happen later. Other folks, if you all have commentary to share, star 61. Let's see. While folks are waiting or perhaps getting another hot dog off the grill, we will be here. Section number 3, Mary Kay Letourneau. Well, the book is about her, but the book is called is written by Greg Olson. If loving you is wrong, it has been a hoot. I guess for me personally, since it's Seattle history and kind of surrounding Seattle area, man, oh man, I'm loving it for so many reasons. And then, hey, Vili Falau is not classified as black, but he is not white. I don't know how people process this situation when it first happened, late 90s or over all these decades since, how people talk about this incident. Do people think and talk about this as an act of racism? Again, part of why I picked this book at this moment was, yes, I was out of town, so we had the potential to read it while I was in Milwaukee. But Fuller, the late great, he said he's the only person that I can think of who, at least that I heard, say this case is racism, white supremacy. In fact, he said directly, sexual activity between white people and non-white people, it is Mary Kay Letourneau every time. I was like, Mary Kay Letourneau. How you spell that for? Mary Kay. Mary Kay. Okay, I'm going to check it out. But that's what he said every time. Now, I don't know. Maybe that was a commonly held opinion at the time. I don't know. But I didn't hear other people talk about, and I didn't know anything about the case, so it might have just been that I was hearing it, but since I was not informed, I didn't read or study, know anything about the case directly, that whatever maybe people were saying, that Mary Kay is a racist, and she picked that Veely 12-year-old, she picked him because he was non-white, and she knew it'd be easier, and I'm a white woman, and I can get away with it. Maybe people were saying that exactly, and it went, boop, I just didn't, I didn't even know what they were talking about. Like, Mary Kay, what? I don't even... Anyway, and back to whatever goofy thing I was thinking about that was not related to replacing white supremacy with justice. But, man, that's something I'm encouraging folks to think about the whole way through the text. Have you heard people? Did you talk about this? Did you think about this as an act of racism? And even how widespread do we think this is? All these white female teachers in the classroom, how many of them do we think are preying on non-white boys specifically? It could be the girls too, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. But, hey, that's one, because they don't really talk about that. When they talk about racism, it's the man. And sexually, when we talk about sexual abuse, black boys and non-white males in general, really, cannot be raped. We're the rapists. So how widespread do we think this is? Do we think this is kind of a one time, just a Washington State oddity, not really representative of the whole? Or do we think this is a bit more widespread? Listener mentioned Rufus King High School in Milwaukee, where they had something kind of similar happen very recently. They were protesting about that while Gus T was in town. I remember the incident at Notre Dame, Indiana, isn't it? Where that was in the athletic program, where they had one of the football players being manipulated. You're going to sleep with my daughter if you want some tutorial help. This was recent, too. This was like 2014. How widespread do we think this is? Is this widespread enough that, hey, maybe this is another way you can talk to your children about racism, white supremacy? Let's talk about old Mary Kay, since you are in public school. Catherine Massey Book Club, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We just got started, so if you haven't been keeping up, I know we just got back on track, got back from Wisconsin, but we've only read 2 sections of If Loving You Is Wrong. So you can catch up quick, and we'll be ready to roll Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll give folks like another 2 minutes or so, see if they have other thoughts, commentary to share for this so-called holiday weekend. 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Let us know how the retired firefighter. Yes, sir.
No, Victor from New Jersey. I listened to the book read. I wasn't able to call in, but something made me laugh. I don't know if it was Mary Kay or they was talking about the mom. I have to listen to it again. When, she expressed that, having a high-end good or clothing was better than having, maybe like 5 or 10 pairs of something not so expensive. And I said, wait a minute. I said, now, I've been hearing tropes about Leroy and Keisha, spending their last, when they get their welfare check on Gucci, Fendi, and Prada. And if Leroy and Keisha was a little bit more responsible with their money, they will get they'll get ahead, and white people don't do this, and white people don't spend their money like this. And I've been hearing this for years, even when we talk about the reparations, the push for reparations. First thing they say, well, Leroy's just going to go out there and buy a Cadillac. So I'm just like, wait a minute. We have a fiscally, a financial irresponsible white woman who would spend her last on looking good and looking good while she's struggling. I said, whoa. I mean, that right there has really shattered all stereotypes. So I don't want to hear nothing about Isha and Leroy buying a pair of Jordans again.
Much obliged. Victim in New Jersey, not retired firefighter. That for sure was Mary Kay. They mentioned it in a few different ways because they said she had her green skirt. I'm not no, fashion savant. But they said she had her little green skirt that she was so proud of, and it was so expensive and must have cost a fortune. They said she just wore that thing to death. Then they said she couldn't even afford to put gas in the car. But it was more important that they rode all over Puget Sound to get the correct Halloween costume. We got them holidays again. To get the correct Halloween costume for her child, who she wouldn't even keep up with. She didn't know if he got crushed in the cement mixer at the construction site or whatever. But once we do find him, boy, we gonna get this Halloween costume. Now, we might have to push the car up the hill, but we gonna get this Halloween costume, and woo, we gonna be looking awesome. Man, come on. And that is for sure, because Leroy could take the exact same position. We can't afford nothing. Ain't got 2 nickels to rub together. But, as opposed to going to the flea market, old secondhand shop, get, 5 pairs of worn, dusty sneakers for $10. No. It's better to have 1 pair of Jordans. 1. Spend that whole welfare check on that 1 pair. We're going to look good. We're going to wear them until they fall apart. We're going to have that 1 good pair. As opposed to these old 10 no count, spend $10 and then got the rest of the welfare check for gas or food or some old nonsense. But you see my sneakers? You have these old ratty things on my feet. See? Leroy might have taken that same, but matter of fact, Leroy might have been one of Mary Kay's students. See, had someone who had the same thing. No. Mary Kay can take that position. Wow, that's because the other white woman, in fact, said that. Wow, I hadn't thought like that. Yeah, that's what to do. Yeah, you had that one. It wasn't you, irresponsible heifer. Like what? You don't have gas in the car, but you're going to spend $5,000 on a skirt? What? What kind of mother are you? No. But in fact, that's the sort of reasoning, thinking that they'll use for the big, beautiful bill. We got all this waste and folks out there mooching who don't even deserve, Medicaid and food assistance and all the rest of it. See, mooching, Leroy, I see you. See, he wasn't talking about old Brett Favre. Anyway, Catherine Massey Book Club. Mary Kay, it has been a hoot learning about Mary Kay. I wish I am ashamed, really, that I didn't do this sooner. I didn't lived here and bragged about the 206 all this time. Like, Jesus Christ, I should know everything about some of the 206 luminaries. Mary Kay, Ted Bundy, Gary Ridgway. We got others, but I mean, Aaron Dixon? Should I say Aaron Dixon? I don't know. Norm Stamper, he's former chief of police. I don't know. I have to pick out who I think the other luminaries of the Seattle area over the last, 150 years or so, people that I think are important in the system of white supremacy. But Mary Kay's name for sure got to be mentioned. We'll see if other folks give like 2 minutes, see if other folks have any other commentary, observations, suggestions to share. *61. Book club on Friday, Neutralizing Workplace Racism on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Let us know if they, made you all go to some holiday picnic or other nonsense with the 4th. Incidentally, he mentioned about black people, and other part of it is us wasting our money to buy Jordans and expensive sneakers or a Cadillac. White people have reams of scholarship. on why black people buy Cadillacs, because so-called redlining and the FHA and all the rest of it, white people did not allow black people to buy houses, certainly not quality housing, and still don't. Whitefish Bay. The only thing Keisha and Leroy could buy, especially if they wanted to show off they had a little bit more wealth, show off a little bit more wealth than Jamal, other black people on the plantation. I got a little bit more cornbread than they do. I can go get me a Cadillac. That's about the only thing white people would allow a black people to do. We'll let you get a Cadillac, and probably not going to let too many of y'all get Cadillacs, but that's about it. You're not going to get no house, and, you know, the rest of my, you can forget about that. Anywho.
Can I be heard?
Retired firefighter in Florida, perhaps Cadillac driver. Yes, sir.
Not my sort of vehicle. I just wanted to report. I saw a report a few days ago. The fire department that I retired from is hiring. They are hiring. They're hiring, and I'm going to use the term, people off the streets. In other words, normally the way they hire is people who already have state certification to be a firefighter in the state of Florida, and also with either EMT, which stands for emergency medical technician, or paramedic. They already have the licenses. This particular point in time, they're literally hiring people that have no prior qualifications. You know, that's literally how I got on. And I would say if you're going to employ yourself representing something like the state or a county and whatnot, and you can basically overcome the fear factor of the danger, the fire service is a pretty good job, especially monetary wise and quote unquote benefits and retirement. It's up there with whatever is the top jobs of that particular type of mode. It's basically pretty good from that standpoint. So I just thought I'd mention that, you know, that is available. As far as I know right now, there are some co-workers, some former co-workers and present workers, non-white people, race classified as black, who actually are assisting for more young black people, especially to be able to be prepared for the job by inviting them to come to sessions to whereas they would be taking practice tests and be informed about what to look out for as far as the physical aspect is concerned of the job itself. That's going to get started pretty soon. You're on that, so just something I thought I'd bring up. That's it.
Quick question for a retired firefighter, aka 1/3 of the Opalaka 3. You said this is the same fire department that you worked at. Given your militant Negro history in South Florida, dare I say unpatriotic Negro history in South Florida, do you think if they're hiring people off the street, as you say, you don't have to have had the normal training and such, do you think you could, like if you had, let's say, a nephew, or even the program with Mr. Clark, you got a young person there, let's say they're 18 or whatever, just graduated high school, a little aimless, I don't know what to do. Do you think you could grab one of them and say, hey, you know, kind of intelligent, and you got the athletic, you don't have any disabilities, anything like that, you could climb a ladder pretty quick, and, you know, if you had to grab somebody and pull them out of a building, you look like you physically could do that if you had the training. Maybe you could do a firefighting career. Do you think, given your history, that you could grab some black person and say, hey, put old retired firefighter's name on there. I could be a reference for you, and or I could recommend someone. And it's, oh, that's right. He used to work for us. He probably got a good eye. Like, yeah, anybody that he sends through, bring them on down. Or do you think it'd be, poison the well, as it were? You don't want no more Opalaka 3s in here. Get on out of here. Step. Get on out of here. What do you think?
You are absolutely correct. That's why I don't get that much involved. I don't get that much involved. The first part of my name is pretty common. But my last name is and put those two together, they will remember on who I am. My time of retiring is although getting to the point to whereas those people who were on the job when I was on, most of them have retired, but there's still some of the younger groups that are still around who would know my name instantly. As far as that concerns. So I think I understand on what you're saying, and that's one of the reasons why I don't get directly involved, at all. From that standpoint, my offspring, if he decides to pursue something like that, he probably would have a hard time because he has my name. First and last name, he has it, but they are retiring. They are retiring, and there's not that many of people who would have a memory of me. I put it that way. There's a few, but they're still around. They're still around. I think that's what you were talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There's still a few around, but there's only a few that are still around. So, and white people do pay attention. They do pay attention to non-white people who are racially classified as black, especially those who as what I did along with some others, make efforts to solve the problem of racism and white supremacy. They do pay attention to it.
One more time. White people cannot be ignorant about white supremacy or racism. The great Neely Fuller Jr. Other white people will let them know. I suspect some of those younger white people, they would catch him up instantly, like, oh, up. You weren't here. We'll go grab a donut. Let me tell you about the Opalaka 3 and these no-count, unpatriotic niggers. We don't want no more of their kind around here. White people are not. See, now that's supposed to be, as much as we sit around and talk about, especially for workplace racism, really racism in general, but especially for labor, as much as we talk about nepotism and cronyism, like, oh my, if it's supposed to be a time where, man, I don't even really have to do that. I can do call at the courthouse, talk about, man, I can go and get me an old pedicure or whatever. I go and get my beard shaped. I get my lip beard trimmed up and everything, because I really don't even have to do the interview and all this. They see my name, like, oh man, that's right, his pop worked here for, his pops worked here for about good 3 decades. Come on, we got Leroy Jr. Come on, Leroy Jr. We gonna do the wink interview, and we already, you spent half your life in the fight. Come on, that's the way. That's what they say, isn't it? Nepotism. You got all that cronyism, and particularly, I would say, for jobs like that, where you'll have second, third generation firefighters, enforcement officers. You even hear that with the armed services and that sort of thing, where they put that down, like, oh yeah, my dad was in the service, or my dad was an officer, my mom was, on the fire department. That's if they were white, for all of those, mind you. Apparently, the nepotism and cronyism, it does not work the same for old Opalaka 3 and tired firefighter. You just can't put that brand out there. Hey, it's retired firefighter cousin.
Gus, can I add to that?
Yeah, that's victim in New Jersey. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, it's funny that retired firefighter just talked about that, and my friend, he's a pretend black because he's from the Caribbean, but my friend was one of the first, and he's retired, and he moved from New Jersey, and he's in Fort Lauderdale now, but so he called me the other day, and there's another black male that's on the fire department. And he says that to give you more context, he was one of the first black firefighters in this town. So I think that they were getting pressured because they had no diversity on this fire department. So in the 1990s, he was one of the was it the early 2000s or the late 1990s? I'm not sure. But he was one of the first black firefighters. So he just called me and he said, you want me to help? He said, victim from New Jersey, let me tell you something that's funny. So he said, he just retired maybe about in February. So he says he talked to another black firefighter that's still on the force, and he said that majority of the new recruits, none of them were black. All of them was relatives of people that was already on the fire department. And so he said to me jokingly, he said, they going back to their old ways. I said, yeah. I said, you the first and the last. So he said they done got the first firefighter, black firefighter to retire. They satisfied their quota. Now they're bringing in all of their relatives, and I just don't. I mean, that's just not a coincidence. And he said all of the new hirees on this particular fire department. He's retired, but there's still another black male that's there. So I won't say the town, but all of the new recruits are relatives of the guys that's already in that fire station.
Law enforcement and firefighting is standard for that.
Right. But that particular town was supposed to kind of, well, I guess with the age of Trump and DEI, they said, I guess they said to hell with it. So they back to just, nepotism.
The system of white supremacy, that nepotism, and because of what Dr. Welsing said all the time, white people only constitute less than 10% of the global population. It's just not very many white people on the planet. Dr. Martin Kevorkian, admitted racist white man, he also told us the system of white supremacy, if white people are going to insist on having sexual activity with other white people, not exclusively, but I mean the marriages and all of that, you got to have a real high rate of white people hooking up with, producing children with other white people. That is going to require a lot of incest because it's not that many white people on the planet. White people brag about that. That is a part of white culture, and what they call it Oedipus Rex, and all. We hear some of that in Mary Kay book, the way she's looking at her father anyway. But all of that notwithstanding, the nepotism, cronyism, because sometimes it won't be that they get, well, often they do hook up the children and nephews and all that with jobs, cousins, nieces, but also it'll be, we went to kindergarten together. We grew up in the same neighborhood, so, we used to play in the treehouse together. We were growing up. That sort of thing, we were in the frat together, we did 4 years at State College, and man, we did underage drinking memories, and so now I got to hook them up with a job, that they are not qualified for. That is the entire system of white supremacy, racism. It is because that's even, they talked about that with affirmative action where they said we gonna do away with all these niggers. Same thing, Leroy with the shoes. Now you come up here and just say I'm nigger and Whitey has done me wrong, and so you get to go to Harvard and all these other places and get free tuition and free books and everything, and take spots away from hard-working, well-meaning, not racist white people. And so we're gonna do away with all that. And they said, well, wait a minute, you got all this cronyism. Now they call it legacy at college, but same thing. My dad went here. My mom went here. My grandpa went here. My grandma built a wing here or a library here or whatever it is, or taught here. You know, okay, they do the same thing. Wink, wink, we act like we... Did you fill out the paperwork? Maybe, maybe not. Whatever. Come on in. We got you. They said, well, we're going to do away with that because that for sure is super duper white people with all that cronyism and nepotism and college admissions on top of the varsity blues just flat out cheating. What about all that? Any hoodles, we will just check social media and such for upcoming broadcasts. Have to get my bearings. It has been, whew, what a treacherous summer. Still adjusting from getting back from Wisconsin and all the rest of it, but wow, it has been a lot. Hopefully, folks, if anything, sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy, racism, and especially this weekend. If this is a part of the 100 deadliest days on the road for people in the U.S., man, I would be buckle up. I would be super careful, and I'm going to be super sober if I got to get behind the wheel. I'd also try and avoid being behind the wheel late at night, like after 10 p.m., Dr. Cambon, 10:30-ish. Be inside. It's going to be lots of folks who are under the influence and they got to get to the shindig or get home from the shindig or whatever. Got to go get the liquor store before it closes and all the rest of it, or they're just out drag racing per usual. Remind your offspring if they're younger, or if you have people that are newer drivers, remind them so they can make safe decisions. That's it, Creator. Remind us, maximize our time and energy to replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Remind us not to waste non-white people's time and energy, especially our own. Stop name-calling people classified as black. Stop gossiping, mostly about people classified as black. No throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay Letourneau. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.